Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV podcast 517.
Back in the beautiful state of Wisconsin, Terry Miller, where the humidity is like 90%, the heat is around, right now it's probably about 80 degrees outside, maybe upper 70s. It's a little sticky, it's a little gross.
Yeah, it does not feel good.
No. How was the weather in Estonia?
Damn near perfect.
Okay.
It's funny how much I took it for granted.
Yeah, you did.
And they were saying, most people were saying it was unseasonably warm, and I don't know if it got to 83 or 85-ish, maybe during, I want to say the first 2 days. It was definitely a lot cooler come Saturday and Sunday, but they were saying that was particularly warm. And if it was the normal temps in the low 70s, it would have been just about perfect. And throughout, we, for the most part, avoided rain. That was a big conversation point, was worrying about Sunday's potential rain, and the fact that it essentially missed us for the closing day of the tournament was this incredible blessing. So all around, I got to say, of course, I experienced some rain in Norway, and I experienced some rain ultimately in Finland, and it's rainy, somewhat of a very common occurrence over there at this time of year. But through and through the 20 plus days I was there, very blessed with the weather conditions. My phone maybe not as blessed.
Yeah,
you
said you think maybe the humidity or something along those lines killed your phone.
Yeah, it was
very strange.
It was Sunday morning at Norway when I was trying to get a ton of the FPO action for the Instagrams, for the socials.
I've always told you, do not keep your phone in your armpit.
Yeah, well, it would have been drier there if I would have never got it out, at least. So, nonetheless, back in the States, so many crazy comparisons and things to talk about and worry about, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But for now, we'll get a quick reminder in. You've got less than 28 hours to get your PDGA voting done, but then you can head on over to another link and get other voting done. Our friends over at Ultiworld are doing a fan survey tonight. We're going to learn all about it, and welcoming to the show right now, Jesse Rice, or Weisz.
He said Weisz like rice, so he confused you.
Let's just go Jesse Rice then.
No,
Jesse Weisz joins us. Thank you.
You're the professional on-air broadcaster.
Says who? Not a survey. Not a survey.
Well, we'll find out what the survey says about how much people like you.
Jesse, welcome. To be fair, I'm a little tired yet. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Of course.
So good. Getting right into it, this survey is it fair to say, is a very significant piece of work that's on your plate for the last couple of years. This is one of the main projects that you're part of, or no?
Yeah. So, what I do for work is I run a nonprofit. I help teachers travel. So that's what I do for most of my time. But in terms of my involvement with disc golf, my writing, it's all been mostly revolved around this project for the last 3 years.
All right. So if you could, let's just start from the top then. What we're talking about, what I've alluded to, and give us the full description of this survey and what people should be able to expect.
Sure. So the survey is, we think of it like a census for disc golf in some ways. It's also market research to understand our sport better and help the leadership in our sport make better decisions. And at the same time, it's also a journalistic pursuit where we publish articles with our analysis based on our survey. So it's kind of three different things in one big survey.
So you shared this survey with, we'll say, people like Jeff Spring, the PDGA, like we talked off camera, other podcasts, things like that, to kind of get a general idea of where our I don't want to say our viewers, but where our population necessarily is in the sport. Is that kind of how you feel?
Yeah, we share some of our analysis with the PDGA, with the Disc Golf Pro Tour. So we're partnering with them this year. And that's not something we did for the first 2 years. So this year, they're going to be promoting our survey to get it to many more people than it's been in the past. And we are going to be providing them with analysis, answering some of their deep questions. So that's kind of how the partnership works.
This is now, I believe, in the third year.
Correct.
Is that correct? I don't want to say what have you learned. I know that's a really generic, overarching question, but more specifically, what have you learned about offering up the survey in terms of either questions you want to reword or ways that you want to go about things in terms of how you're administering a survey, which I know sounds maybe a little bit silly, like how tough is it? But there's clearly an art form and strategy in what's presented and what's being even offered on the survey. So what are some of the things that you've learned and maybe even refined or adjusted?
Well, the survey, if you take the survey this year and you took it the previous 2 years, you'll notice it's very different this year.
Okay.
In terms of we're using Zoho, which is a professional survey platform, whereas we used Google Sheets the first 2 years. The first 2 years, I was just winging this. I'm not an expert. This was, me, being really curious about what drives fandom. Why am I rooting for this player over this player? Why am I rooting against this player? What is driving me to do that? And if I look at other fans, are there biographical indicators that would make it make more sense about how fandom works? What are the key inputs into who we root for? So that's what started this whole project. Was that curiosity. And I figured the best way to do that was to do a big survey. The first year we had 1,500 people fill it out. And I partnered with Ultiworld and with Statmando to help us get the word out, and then also to publish our results. And so we did that the same thing the second year. I expanded it a little bit, and we included media in there. So they did review you, Terry, and came out smelling like roses.
Yeah, right.
So then this year, though, people read the survey, people, send me feedback. And I had a couple really smart people who actually have expertise in the subject get in touch with me and say, hey, this is really cool. Have you thought about doing this or that? And a lot of times I had no idea what they're talking about because they are experts and I'm not. And so I said, hey, you love disc golf. You love surveys. You love this kind of data research. Come join this project. And so we got some really smart people to help us come up with a research plan, using scientific methods for how a professional research plan would be run. And then we also have people who are actually statisticians to help us actually run the analysis rather than me just again figuring it out on the fly and doing the best I can. So the survey is much more professional this year in terms of how it's been designed.
And for real quick, for those that want to take the survey, there's the QR code right down this way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're nailing it.
Right here, right down there. You can scan that with your phone, and it'll bring you to the survey, so you can take it. And there's one of a few different options. Can you talk about that as far as how the actual survey, when someone logs in or scans in, what are they going to see?
So if you hit that QR code, it's going to go to discgolfsurvey.com, which is our website. And right in the middle of the page is the button to take the survey. So you can't miss it. And it also, if you do have more questions about, what we're doing here, who are the people involved with the project, what's our research plan, that's all on discgolfsurvey.com. So you can find out more about the history, about our intentions. You can even find all the articles that we've written based on the past 2 years of surveys. So we've put out, I think, 15 articles, something like that. And they're pretty long, in-depth articles. In terms of the survey, as you mentioned, the length, in the previous 2 years, it took about 15 to 20 minutes to fill out the survey. This year, we're giving you the option as respondents to decide how long of a survey you want. So the first question you're asked is, do you want to take a 10-minute survey? Do you want to take a 20-minute survey? Or do you want to answer all the questions as long as it takes? And so we've designed the survey so it's going to field you questions based on all of the answers that you give. So we're not wasting your time giving you questions to things that you couldn't possibly have answers for.
One of the bigger surveys of note that is in recent history is one that the PDGA put out last year. And of course that came with both some welcomed response and also some criticism. I remember people talking about, the things that were on it, and how they were getting there. When you talked about the team or the people and the collaboration to bring up this survey, were other things outside of disc golf, do those kind of, I don't want to say get factored in, but do those somehow creep? Clearly, I have not taken the survey yet. Do those other subjects that don't seem like they're related to disc golf, do they in any way also, surface or help kind of steer people in whatever direction? Does that all make sense? Because what I mean by that, just to clarify, is I feel like last year, one of the largest components of the survey was the transgender conversation about transgender athletes and competitors, but then it also was talking about religion and other factors that was, felt like it then arrived at bringing you to certain, to, as the questions continued. Is that in all some of the philosophy that's as part of this, or not at all?
So you're talking about the PDGA survey that came out was mostly about the transgender issue.
Yes.
Our survey last year, we did ask that question. It was just one tiny question out of 100 something questions. Yep. So we certainly don't focus on it. We do ask that question again this year because this is going to be a census for disc golf. That's kind of our goal here. And, the pressing questions of our day, we're going to ask them and keep track over time about how sentiment changes in the sport.
Have you noticed, speaking of how sentiment changes, have you noticed in the first 2 years any trends that have surprised you? Now that you have 2 years of data, obviously this third year is going to be relatively kind of big. It's hard to really come up with a trend with only 2 years. But are you expecting to see anything, or are you just going to sit there and kind of wait for the results to come in?
Well, the core of the survey has always been, are you on a 0 to 10 scale? Are you rooting against or for each player? So we have the main player, the most prominent players in the sport, where the respondents can kind of rate them. And when we first did this, I had certain expectations about how popular certain players would be. I guess I wasn't surprised that Simon Lizotte was the most popular player, but it was by far in the second year, and also I was surprised by how popular Kristen Tatar was. I would figure somebody who's really dominating FPO wouldn't be that popular, and so for the past 2 years, Kristen and Simon have been the homecoming king and homecoming queen, and I don't think that's going to change this year. But what I am interested in more is, players that are starting to rise, like Gannon, like AB. Since we closed our survey last year, which was basically around when Worlds ended last year, they've both, gotten considerably better. They've won a whole bunch, and I'm interested to see how their popularity changes with that. And as other players who've won their first events, I'm interested to see Ella Hansen. Has she gotten a bump? Has Holland gotten a bump? Yeah.
Well, that was, I guess, leads right into my next question. You said you're working with Statmando on this. Do you have a way to tie, we'll say, the relationship that the users that fill out the survey have with maybe the results on the course over the last 3 years? So, you can look at Statmando and say, oh, look, Ella Hansen's rating has gone up 25 points over the last 2 years, or whatever that number is, and equate that to we'll say an increase or even a decrease in likability, or if that's even what it is. I don't know if it's likability or rootability. I'm not sure how to phrase that one, if you're rooting for or against. Is that in the plans at all now that you're working with Statmando?
So just to clarify, we worked with Statmando for the first 2 years. They got bought by PDGA. We're still very friendly with Statmando, and a lot of the people who are on our survey team also work with Statmando. They're not like a part of the survey this year in terms of like the name of the survey, but we're still going to be working with many of the people involved with Statmando. But we did last year. We did. I think it was last year. We did a plot where we took player rating and then plotted that against fandom score. to try to see the correlations between success on the course and fandom score.
I believe you guys even wrote about it at some point within one of your articles about, when players themselves, and it doesn't have to be the players, it can obviously be us in the media. When you see some of the scores and someone's ranked, you might be lower in likability or in the overall fandom or something like that. Was part of the article last year providing maybe some suggestions or analysis? Like, should the players just take that and then reflect and come up with their own solutions? Do you guys have solutions or things you've thought about? How is that kind of awkward to kind of sift through that? I mean, nobody likes to be scored low. Let's put it that way in likability. Yeah. Nobody likes that. So where are you guys on that? Well, here's what to do with those numbers. How do you help direct that at all?
I mean, we can sometimes speculate about certain events that happen that may have triggered certain increases or decreases in somebody's fandom score. For example, Holland Hanley won the throw pink, but in controversial fashion.
Sure.
And last year, what we did, while the fandom survey was open, a couple events took place, including throw pink. And we were able to look at her score, Holland's score, before throw pink and after throw pink. And we also looked at the same thing for Matty O, because he won
MVP.
MVP during that. Isaac Robinson won Worlds while the survey was open, and we're able to look at pre-win and post-win fandom scores. And Holland was the only person who went down in fandom score. So that's someplace where we were able to say, okay, this event probably is why this had a negative impact on her. Now we'll be interested to see what Holland's score is this year, to see are there lingering effects of that, or is that kind of long forgotten? But I guess you're right. It is a kind of a tricky thing of talking about popularity, about likability, and it is a little uncomfortable. But I have spoken with some agents in the sport, and they said that they thought the fandom survey was very useful for their players, because sometimes it's hard for them to convince their players, hey, you need to do more social media, or hey, the way you're acting on the course is going to affect your popularity. It's going to affect selling discs. And they could point to their fandom score in our article and say, hey, you might not be as popular as you think you are.
Sure.
Yeah, Terry, I've told you that a lot.
Yeah, no, I trust me. And every week I know.
I think about it because we just saw Ricky come off an extremely hot weekend. I'm sorry, month of Europe. Like, he just played out of his mind. I would be curious right now to look at his fandom score almost now, when obviously the word is getting out to do this, versus in a month, versus in, like, is his fandom score, because is his fandom score going to go down? Is it, does he ride this high? How is it? Again, I know these are a lot of things I remember from last year. How is his, I wish we could have got his fandom scores before he took his Europe trip, because I'd love to know, did he pick up more European fans during that time break? Where, because that's why a lot of these guys go over there, or they spend extended time over there to try to pick up these new fans, try to grab the European market, which is, I don't want to say they're starving, but we'll say they're starving for American players, because they see a lot of their European players, but these are very well attended events. So I'm curious.
Well, just as we're kind of all discussing within this realm, there's such a recency bias to a lot of this stuff. Ricky today will probably have a higher score than maybe in a month, even if he just has a decent next month, but he's not as hot as he's been, which is going to be, again, a very tough pace to keep up with. In a month, it might be lower, and it's just because he played good golf, not great golf. So we
can look at that.
Yeah,
we can look at the survey, because the survey opened a week ago.
Okay.
So we do have some early results. And this is the week where we're really starting to promote it heavily. And so we should be getting a lot of results, and it's going to be open all the way until August 26th. Now, I think somebody like Ricky would have a much stickier fandom score, because he's been around for so long. I think a lot of us have opinions about Ricky that, a hot streak is not going to change our opinions.
Yeah, good point.
but another player would be a different example.
Silva Saarinen. Wow, Silva Saarinen. Clearly, after the June she had, where she rattles off 5 consecutive wins, who if you don't know who she is now, then you're just not paying any attention to FPO golf. But you rewind, pre-June versus post-June performance. Someone like her, not like you said, not quite as locked in probably on a fan base, because hers is likely on the rise and has been. So that her scores might be a little more volatile in that sense. In this case,
I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there a specific reason you choose now to release the survey? Is this because we have Worlds coming up in a few weeks? Was that part of the idea? You want to run this pre and post Worlds, just to kind of look at how players finish for that, or is this just kind of the meat of the season? Would it be, or would there be any thoughts about doing this survey twice a year, at the very beginning, at the very end of the season, or something along those lines?
So the reason why it's this time of year is, well, because the first time I did it was around this time of year. So just for consistency, we've been doing it the same times a year. Also, it's good timing in terms of being able to collect the data and then having a little bit of time to analyze the data before the off season, because that's when we want to release all of our articles, when there's not as much content out there, so that people have something else, to consume during the off season. And then I guess we started it a little bit earlier this year, because we did hear back from manufacturers that they were very interested in our data, and that it would be very helpful for them to make decisions. But by the time we released our data last year, they'd already kind of spent all their money, and it wasn't as useful for them when we released the data. So we decided that we would collect our data just like basically a week or two earlier, just to have results for the manufacturers if they were interested in purchasing early access to specific reports on them, on specific players they might be interested in signing, free agents. So we've created a product, if manufacturers are interested in that we can sell, to basically be able to make this fandom survey sustainable, something that we can keep doing every year.
I was going to ask that actually, about whether or not you were selling access to more of the raw data or individual data. If I'm Discraft, can I buy Innova's data? If I'm Innova, can I buy Discraft's data? Because you might want to look at their players and say, oh, so-and-so is very hot right now. Holland Hanley is outrageously loved. Maybe we should make a run at her. Things like that, to get her on our team. That's really interesting.
It's a good question. So, sorry, go ahead, Terry.
No, go ahead.
So for the first 2 years, we haven't sold anything. We haven't made any money off of this. This year, what we did was we started a new company called First Available Research. So this survey this year is called the FAR Ultiworld Fandom Survey, because First Available Research. And the purpose of First Available Research is, one, try to prevent me from getting sued by having an LLC that is kind of running the project. And also so that we can to figure out how to get some kind of revenue stream in there, because it does take a ton of hours to run this project, and it's been all volunteer up until now. And we're passionate about giving answers to the disc golf community, but at the same time, it would be great if there was a little bit of revenue to cover the expenses of having insurance and using a professional platform and all that stuff.
But passion doesn't pay your mortgage. I learned for 10 years in disc golf.
No, you've certainly volunteered more time to disc golf than most people. Did I answer that whole question?
Yeah. And I love, and it makes perfect sense. Obviously this is going to be valuable. And it makes perfect sense that these decision makers can draw from this and look into, like you said, it gives some official or unofficial, I guess, depending on how you want to look at it, in terms of the overall validity, but it definitely gives some distinguishing marks for players come negotiation time and or for the manufacturers. I mean, it's obviously a two-way street. Like we were just saying, someone thinks they're more popular than they really are. The stats maybe don't quite back that up, or just gauging one player against another. And, somebody has a 5.8 and somebody has a 5.7, and you're thinking, well, why are we paying this person $50,000 or $100,000 more a year versus that person. These are some benchmarks, or I guess then the follow up to that is, as I just called them, marks and benchmarks and such, or some comparison. Just how serious should people? How much weight should players and manufacturers put into this? Because is this kind of the most official thing we have right now? How much should we be weighing this?
I mean, that's kind of up to them. But I think if I were at least in the industry, if I were making financial decisions, I would probably put a lot of weight behind this, because in terms of the sample size, we had 3,000 people take the survey last year, which is a good sample size. But the Disc Golf Pro Tour and the PDGA weren't promoting our survey last year. Mm-hmm. This year, we're probably going to have over 10,000 respondents. There's going to be, live ad reads on DGN. The PDGA is going to be sending out a big email to a lot of members. So the exposure for the survey is going to be a lot higher. And so we're going to be able to get a lot more data. And, just to give you an example of one of the questions on the survey, we asked people which signature series, touring series discs they bought this year. And then we have a follow-up question of, did you buy it because of the disc, or did you buy it to support the player? And so that, because that is a question that some people have is, this person just has a popular mold. Well, we can help answer that question.
Yeah, I mean,
that's just one example of many.
Yeah,
Sure.
I bought 5 Simon Lizotte pixels because I wanted 5 identical pixels. I didn't care that they were Simon Lizotte ones. I just wanted 5 identical ones, and it's very difficult with MVP discs to get identical discs, color and weight and everything, and I was able to get them because of that. So I actually answered that in the survey. Did you buy it? Yes, I did. Did you buy it because of Simon? No, I don't mind supporting Simon, but this is the reason why I bought it. Can you touch on, you talked about players, you talked a little bit about media. Can you touch on any other subjects that might be in the survey? Because, like I said, I'll be honest with you, I looked at the survey and I took the shorter survey, so I don't know what all I missed. Can you go through and tell us, are there things such as, favorability for PDGA? We'll say, we could go board members, things like UDisc. I think of, if you want a huge survey, talking to UDisc and maybe finding a way for them to put it in the app or something like that.
So I can answer that question. So you would have been able to answer questions from every single section of our survey, but you wouldn't have gotten as deep questions. So we would have limited the amount of players you would have had a chance to review. We wouldn't have asked you deeper questions about, follow-up questions about some of the questions you answered. So by taking the short, one of the shorter surveys, the medium survey, we're just giving you less follow-up questions. But the sections of the survey are, what is your fandom of players? So that's what we, already discussed, the 0 to 10. We're asking people, who's your favorite player? Which player would you most want to, play around with? Those kinds of questions. Then the second part is, how are you entertained by disc golf? So this is, about our watching habits, about following, disc golf by listening to podcasts or shows. Just kind of how do you follow the sport and at what intensity? And lots of different questions about, following FPO versus MPO. And so we can kind of learn about, how much women follow FPO compared to men. We've got all those statistics. Then how are you engaged with disc golf? That's the third section. This is more about playing. How often do you play? What's your favorite disc? Disc purchasing habits. And then the fourth section is, how do you engage with disc golf sponsorship? This is a section you can actually skip if you want, if you feel like this is too commercial information that we're asking. But this is something that's very, very valuable for the Disc Golf Pro Tour when they are trying to approach potential sponsors, to be able to have this data on hand, to be able to tell sponsors outside of disc golf about the interests of disc golf fans. And then the last survey is, who are you as a disc golfer? These are more biographical questions. So we're trying to get a sense of who everybody is. And keep in mind, all of these things can be cross-referenced. So we can get all these interesting insights when we look at these different questions cross-tabulated.
As silly as this might sound, is there anyone that might as well skip the survey? And here's what I mean by that is, I think about I may live and breathe disc golf, but my survey responses will look mildly bizarre for someone who lives and breathes disc golf. Like, for the fact that I watch zero post-production disc golf.
You would technically watch zero live disc golf.
Yeah,
too,
I was just going to say,
you're
like,
usually involved.
That's exactly what I mean. And the, just some of my answers, and I'm just one person, and I'm not claiming I'm special, but I just know, as much as disc golf is my life, my answers will almost some of them will almost seem silly compared to what you would expect or what someone would.
You don't
think.
Want to skew the results.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of saying. I don't listen to any podcast at all, and it's
you don't listen to me on this podcast.
I know that's very intentionally. But yet, obviously, again, I live and breathe disc golf, but I don't listen to a single disc golf podcast or watch any post-production or really watch any live, because that's what I'm saying. Like, are my results not worth being in there?
I appreciate you asking that question. It actually leads to a good follow-up thing that I'd like to say. But in terms of, I think everybody should take this survey, if they're willing to do that. You can't skew the survey. It's impossible with this amount of people that are taking it. No one person can skew the survey. And also all the data, it's all completely, that's one thing to say, this is completely anonymous, the survey. You can, if you want, enter in your email at the end if you want to be emailed when the next survey comes out, but that's separated from all the data, and you don't have to answer that question if you don't want. And another thing is, how you answer your questions, Terry, is going to say what questions we serve you. So if you don't click the box that you watch post-production on Jomez, we're not going to ask you about what you think of the commentators on Jomez.
Okay.
And same thing if you say that you don't watch DGN, we won't ask you about the DGN commentators. So the survey it's actually working with you. So let's just say, you have a friend who you play disc golf with, does not follow professional disc golf at all. We want them to take the survey as well, because the survey, again, asks them if they follow professional disc golf. And if they say no, then we're going to ask them, one simple follow-up question of saying, why don't you watch professional disc golf? And then from there, we'll kind of move on to about their playing. So we're going to completely skip having them review players, because if they're not from, if they don't follow professional disc golf, we don't expect them to have any opinions. And same thing with the players. Some people are familiar with all the players. Some people, might only know the top 5. So one of the questions we ask for the players, we don't ask you to review all the players. We ask you to uncheck boxes if you're unfamiliar with players. And so that way we're not going to get your answer of, I'm going to give this person a 5 because I'm neutral on them because I've never heard of them before.
Okay. Yeah. Makes perfect sense then.
And that's the advantage of going with the Zoho platform versus the Google Sheets or Google Forms platform, where there's not really a lot of options in Google Forms to be able to filter or restrict those type of that type of tree, so to speak. Is that right?
Yeah, so our survey uses survey logic. That's the term for it. So our survey architect's a guy named Josiah Zuzma. I'm sure John. You see him on the Ultiworld Discord all the time, like putting in amazing stats. Yeah. He's very active with Statmando. Really smart guy. He's a neuroscience researcher, and so Josiah has designed the hell out of the survey so that it works and is super efficient and is valuing the time of each respondent. So that's all his work, and it is so much better than using Google Forms.
One follow up to that, and this is obviously going to sound a little bit biased because it is, and again, prefacing that I have not yet taken the survey.
I have. I can answer your question.
This is kind of a generic annoyance that I feel like gets lumped in when there's a lot of back and forth regarding commentators. Obviously, I'm one of them. My only maybe question is there any distinction as to roles? And what I mean by that is, oftentimes whenever there's a commentator conversation or discussion on Facebook, it's, I love this person or I hate this person and blah, blah, blah. And then it usually will then, well, I hate this person and I prefer this person way more. And they don't necessarily have the same role. And this sounds, again, very specific, but I hate when someone says, well, I love Nate Sexton, but I hate Terry. that's fine if you do, but we're also not supposed to be serving the same role. Like where I'm a host like Charlie, like Ian, like Essa or whoever, like just the fact that a lot of people I don't even think understand that should be defined, like I'm not in competition, not that I'm in competition with anyone or trying to be, but you know what I mean? Like I'm not doing the same thing.
If they define the roles?
Yeah.
So we do in the articles. So in the article that we wrote about commentators last year, we did, explain that there's a difference between color and commentary, and that those are different roles. And we did talk about how popularity, the fandom scores are sort of reflected in that players tend to be more popular, right? A player, just in terms of name recognition, they get a little boost there. So we did talk about the factors that went into the fandom scores of commentators last year, and we'll do the same this year. So we do try to figure that out. But one of the issues is in disc golf, sometimes people step over those roles, and it's a blended role. There is a little bit of gray area between who's color and who's commentary, and sometimes people are filling both roles. I mean, Brian will be both roles depending on who's in the booth with him.
Certainly. Yeah. And again, I know that sounds incredibly nitpicky. I guess sometimes I hate it when and if somebody prefers Ian over me, like I'm good with that. I understand that. And this goes for every single one of these people. I just hate when you see, well, I like this person, but I dislike that person when they're on the broadcast. And you can just generically say that, but you can't say, well, I'd rather have, German Yuli versus, Charlie and Juliana or whatever. And it's like, wait. Like, somebody is a host there. Somebody's
Terry,
not. Like,
first of all, they're smart. They got you under control. I looked at the article last year. Second of all, I gave you an 8.
That's a little
spoiler. I mean, you weren't the highest.
And one of the things we explained in that article last year is that we saw that the highest scores for commentators were the Jomez commentators. Mm-hmm. And post-production is a very different job than live in terms of the requirements. You can you're filling a lot of air, whereas they can, maybe joke around more. And it is kind of a different format. So that was one thing that we noticed was the Jomez commentators were all really popular. And there was a difference between that and the people doing live.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, I think of, again, this kind of, I'm not trying to sound
You're very
defensive.
focused.
I know, I'm not
defensive.
trying to, but I just think of that too. There is a very different, it's just a totally different style. Job overall in doing post versus live. And then I think there's clearly, I feel like there's also going to be an additional, I don't want to call it advantage, but post-production on any channel, probably going to have higher overall graphics and or bit rate and just quality. Naturally, I feel like anyone, I feel like you may like certain commentators less, but in a post-production format, you're just inherently like post-production because it's a better overall video quality too. Like there's just a lot of factors. And that's why at the end of the day, I don't toss and turn. There's people that like me and people that don't. That's forever going to be the case. I'm okay with it.
That's why we let the really smart guys.
It is just funny to think about like some of these nuances because it's not all apples to apples in a lot of those types of comparisons. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Like someone could say the same about a podcast. Well, I like this podcast and I don't like that. Really, they just may hate the length of one more than they hate the length of another.
What are you saying, Terry? Go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the reasons why we had the commentator section in last year was because there was all this vitriol online saying, I hate this commentator, hate him, that person should be fired. And I thought that this is not very productive. What would be productive is we put a score behind this and we try to figure out, if we look at a broad swath of disc golf fans, what do they think? And if we also have the data and know, are these people DGN subscribers? Are these people, do these people prefer post to live? And so we have all of that data and we put that in our article to kind of really lay out what the landscape is of commentators, and hope that this information is useful for DGN when they're making assignment decisions. Like, one of the things that we found was some of the least popular commentators last year had the most assignments last year, which was really interesting. So, and I don't want to talk. You can read the article. You can find it through, again, our website, and you can kind of find that out. But that was something that we found interesting, was that maybe DGN should have reconsider who they were assigning. And I haven't looked at it this year. I haven't looked at whether the assignments kind of how they compare with our ratings last year. But it was something that we were at least giving them a data point to make intelligent decisions.
Yeah, to tell people maybe having one team do 15 events is too much.
Sure.
Stop. People at some point it declines. The love for a person may decline after 8 events or something along those lines. Is there anything in the survey that is there anything not in the survey that you can see in the future putting in? Like, what's out there right now that you're thinking, God, I'd love to know more about this subject, but either you just didn't have time this year, or you didn't think it was appropriate this particular year. Now, if being the first year that you're a company, what else are you looking maybe to add in the future?
We got in the things that we thought were the most essential. There were a lot of questions that we cut, but we cut them because we didn't think that they were as important. And maybe we can get to them eventually. But there's so much in the survey. If you take that long survey, you'll say they weren't holding back on any questions. So I think, as we learned, I don't know if there's other sections that I imagine adding in, but I think the survey is pretty comprehensive as it is.
I just think, in my mind, I'm thinking like disc golf apps, games, disc golf rules. Like, hey, the talk right now is hole 16 at European Open. I'm sure the PDGA has some idea, but having a survey like, do you think the bunker rule is a good rule? Would you like to see it at more events and things like that? I can imagine more of. I mean, obviously those are more right off the top of my head right now because they're hot buttons. But I just think of things like that, or if that's even in your wheelhouse, if that's something you'd even like to do.
Well, one thing on the survey where you put your email address in at the end, if you want to get emails from us, there is an option of getting an annual email from us when the new survey is ready. But also, if you are willing to take more surveys, we're probably going to put together a group of people for quarterly surveys, or maybe biannual surveys, where we ask more relevant questions to the moment, such as rule changes, such as controversial events. Things like that. So that might be something that we do so that we have more surveys. But right now, this survey is such a handful that I don't plan on doing that in the immediate future.
I don't blame you either.
Now, a few years ago, maybe by a few, I mean 10 or even 15, there was a pretty comprehensive survey that got released. I feel like, I don't know if they did it every year or every other year, and it may or may not have been headed up even by like PDGA Marketing / John Dusler. Does any of that sound familiar? It vaguely, maybe I should check my emails. I feel like that was the most comprehensive survey we saw year in and year out for a handful of years. Do you know what I'm talking about, first of all? Any idea?
I've seen some like previous surveys, but I don't know about them in depth. I only got into disc golf in like 2017 in terms of like following professional disc golf. I've been playing disc golf for a long time, since 1993, but never seriously. Okay. And but I wasn't that into disc golf to know about all these surveys that preceded us, the bigger ones.
Yeah, I'm just, and it's, I don't have it off the top of my head, but I do remember there was a push to basically have a very, what was it, 2017 Ultiworld Disc Golf Reader Survey. I guess I'd have to go back.
I found a 2013 PDGA survey as well.
Okay.
So, but maybe that's what you're thinking.
Yeah, that might, I feel like it was more about the industry more so than specifically the PDGA. I feel like helped back it. but it was about industry stuff like, hey, do you go camping? And, things like that, like, some of that background stuff. And then you're finding like
there's old member surveys, 2011, 2012.
I wonder if that might have been it.
That might have been it. PDGA has done surveys like this in the past to get their demographics and stuff. Yeah, I think we're a really big deal. We found out, the average golfer was X amount with, X age with income,
certain income, and along with certain, educational background and all those types of things. So anyway, I guess I was just wondering if you had any reference or referral to any of those, because I know that was a pretty in-depth.
We don't.
Okay,
but what I would love, what would the Holy Grail for me would be to go back and like be able to do our fandom scores for players like, if we look at disc golf in say 2015, I'm very curious to see how popular Paul would have been compared to Ricky, where Simon was back then. And, if we kind of rewind the clock, because right now we know clearly who are the most popular players in the sport and kind of where they stack up. I'd love to be able to look back in history and know like what was the turning point where Simon Lizotte became the most popular player in the sport.
Sure.
Trick shots.
Honestly, I think so. At some point,
him and his trick shots. Yeah.
Was it during the pandemic? I mean, that
just pre-pandemic. I think pre-pandemic is when Simon was really revving up. But
yeah, I mean, some of these players, clearly their popularity, notoriety, overall just exposure, comes about in relation to some of their YouTube channels. Simon obviously being one of those guys as well. But I think that is going to continue to be potentially a driving force for some of these players, because it's giving them more face time, more screen time, and more of their personality, of which some people jive with or not. But that's, I think when they look at their fandom scores throughout the years, if there's any significant blip on the radar or on their data, on their overall timeline, if they've started some kind of YouTube channel, I think that could be a big data point.
Yeah, like Alden Harris right now. Because Alden's a perfect example. Like, you could probably look at his fandom. It more than likely is going to be higher than his statistical playing skills have been lately. Sorry, Alden. But he's very popular with YouTube. Like that, people love those videos. Him, Gavin, the whole crew that just kind of participate in that.
Yeah.
I could completely see that their fandom scores maybe skew higher than players right in their rating range. Is that another thing you do? Do you look at rating range maybe and then scale it to the thing? I think we talked about that.
You just asked that.
I did ask that earlier.
We can definitely do that. And I think you're absolutely right, John. I mean, if I talk personally, even though Alden Harris's blog shouldn't be in my wheelhouse as a 46-year-old man, I really enjoy it. And I've really come to like those guys and I root for them because I've gotten to know them,
Exactly.
and Gannon, who, there clearly are some people who are coughing when he's throwing and people who are, rooting against him.
Sorry, I had a frog in my throat.
Yeah, it's okay, Terry. I mean, I've come to really like Gannon, from his interviews and from, his personality on the blog. He shouldn't be somebody who I enjoy in terms of, my level of maturity and his age. But I think that those vlogs really bring people to life. And that's one of the things I love about our sport. And this is when I'm trying to convince my friends, hey, you should follow disc golf and stop following golf, is, these are real people. They're living out of their vans. They're passionately playing this sport. And it's fun not rooting for millionaires. I love that about disc golf. And the vlogs really kind of bring to life who these people are. And I think that's really valuable.
Yeah, it does. It truly humanizes a lot of them.
Yeah. And we'll see again as they look at some of those results. You have to wonder if any player looks at those and then says, yes, I'm absolutely going to address this or try to fix this or get better at this. Or if
many of them don't believe it.
Or maybe don't believe it or just, some form of denial or just feel like, well, it is what it is. Because, I mean, to some degree, there's a level of misunderstanding by some people or that's just who you are and you're okay with that. And if you're not well-liked, you're not well-liked. or overly, popular, then, maybe so be it. Yeah, it's interesting how everyone will internalize, some of those results. So,
yeah, I have no idea how they react to it, and I hope that it's not too hurtful, because that's certainly not the intention. But I understand that could be. But it is, it's a scientific approach to trying to figure out these things.
Sure.
So I hope that they would take it as a useful data point. And say, okay, I can get better. Or they say, I'm not getting paid enough because look how popular I am. And maybe they'll use that data point. But we have the best of intentions for the data.
Yeah, I mean, kind of don't shoot the messenger at the end of the day. I mean, you're collecting what people are saying, and they're saying the truth hurts sometimes, and it is what it is. So awesome. Was there anything else we need to know? You hit on the date. August 26th is final day.
Closes.
It's already open now. So we'll repeat, if anyone sees the QR code on the screen, you can click on that. That'll get you there.
Or take a picture of it. Don't click on it because you're not going to be able to do anything. Take a picture of it.
Take a picture of it, sure.
Or go to discgolfsurvey.com. That's the other way to find it. If you're just listening right now and you don't see a QR code, discgolfsurvey.com.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to put it in the description, but just discgolfsurvey.com. You answer a couple questions right off the bat. First thing that's stated is that it's completely anonymous. Okay. Well, we'll put that in the description. And then again, as you just said, for anyone that's just listening, discgolfsurvey.com will get you there. Open from now until August 26th. All right. Anything else we should know that we didn't talk about regarding the survey?
No, thanks so much for having me, guys.
Oh, for sure. It's always fun to interact with you, whether it's here or on the board. I know we chat a lot everybody chats a lot on the Discord. So
awesome. Well, we're looking forward. When should people, just like when a picture gets taken, a video gets taken, or even a survey gets taken, the first question then is, well, when can we see the results of this? When am I going to get this? When do you kind of expect to have some of it digested and start releasing some of the results of it?
Normally we publish our articles in like November, December, January, kind of the most boring time of the year possible.
Okay. So
we'll probably have you on again then to talk about a lot of the results.
Yeah, we'll have interesting stuff to talk about.
We'll rub it in Charlie's face how we're better than him. That's it. Right? That's how it's going to turn out.
Probably
Listen,
not
Smashies,
for me.
we need tens. Lots of tens.
All right. Well, Jesse, we appreciate you joining us. Thank you for all the insight. Thank you for all the hard work.
Yeah.
Like you said, I know it's been a couple of years of work and even though it's there may be a financial component now, it's still going to be a ton of hard work and a lot of smart people doing a lot of insightful things, and we all get to reap the benefits of it. So we certainly appreciate all the efforts.
Sure, no problem. And yeah, nobody's getting rich off this. This is disc golf.
And if you were, I'd be okay with it.
Yeah.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night, and I'll go get it filled out maybe tomorrow, and we'll get it all.
Take
submitted.
the long one. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks a lot.
Have a good
Goodbye.
night. See ya.
That's Jesse Weisz.
Jesse Weisz,
Not Jesse Rice.
not Jesse Rice. Weisz rhymes with Rice.
Yeah.
and nice.
Yeah, that's how he should do it. It's like Weisz, like nice.
Yes. Well, either way, it was nice to have Jesse Weisz. I'd like to eat some rice. All right.
I had some rice for dinner.
Look at you on top of it. All right, everyone. Let's jump into this last weekend. Some little thing took place in some country somewhere. It was all right.
It was all right. What is this? It's considered the European Festival?
Disc Golf
Festival.
Taking place in Tallinn, Estonia. By far Estonia's largest city, right there. Just a 2-hour ferry ride across from Helsinki, which plenty of golfers did, and is got to be the transportation of choice. Get yourself Tampere/Nokia down to Helsinki is just about 2 hours. Then you jump on the ferry for a 2-hour ferry ride. There's a couple different ferries to take, and then obviously you can go with or without a car. Jump on the ferry. It's 2 hours to get into Tallinn, and then everything you need is pretty much right there. If you've never, plenty of people have never been on any ferry of any kind in their life. That's always a unique experience. These are as full scale and as legitimate and as I don't know if there's bigger ferries than these, but let's just put it this way. I would assume that the ferry that runs here in Wisconsin or
right up from
Michigan,
Milwaukee that crosses Lake Michigan.
I haven't been on that one. I'll admit that, but I don't know if it's as big as these or not. But anyway, I've been on smaller ferries.
We'll do some research and we'll figure that out at some point.
I've been on ferries in Norway that were not nearly as big as the ones that are running back and forth here. So it's a pretty cool experience for a little 2-hour trip that'll cost you anywhere between $20 and $50, depending on how fancy you want to get. So, yeah. Tim says he just finished the survey. That's exactly what I was thinking, is how a lot of people would jump over to the survey immediately, because it feels like
it's a perfect opportunity to sit and listen to us, and maybe we can skew some of the results by talking about some of these results.
All right, let's see what we've got for the European Disc Golf Festival FPO division, Johnny.
We got a playoff in the FPO field. Missy Gannon takes this over Evelina Salonen. Evelina, spoil it, misses about a 15-foot putt, I believe it was, on the final hole, or the first playoff hole.
First playoff hole.
And
a little longer than 15, but yeah.
Okay, so just a little longer than 15-foot putt, and allows Missy to get the birdie on the par 5. So she took a 4, and Evelina took a 5. But Evelina shot an 8 under par final round to catch Missy, who only shot a 6 under. So she made up 2 strokes on her. Overall, Evelina honestly putted pretty well. It's a lot of people kind of harp on her for her putting recently because it can come and go, but that wasn't really her issue until the final, the first playoff hole, where unfortunately she lost it there. But Missy Gannon wins this, followed up by Evelina Salonen. 3rd place, Heidi Laine. 4th place, Anniken Sten. 5th place, Katie Tate. Now we're going to start getting a little mixy here. Time for 6th place between Kairi Taku, Kairi Taku, Katie Alsalu. 8th place on her home turf. Little disappointing, Kristen Tatar. 9th place, Ella Hansen, and then a tie in 10th between Silva Saarinen and Jenny Karppinen. I think the big news to talk about is, one, Missy Gannon winning.
Of course.
Going overseas, she's so consistent and she's always hanging around. She shot a 989 final round to be able to kind of get herself into it. Haiti, unfortunately, only shot a 2 under par, which really dropped her out of contention. She just couldn't get anything going on the front 9. But the other story obviously has to be Kristen Tatar not even podium, not taking top 5 on her home course. I don't say call her home course, but her home country biggest event of the year. It's hard to blame her, coming off a big major win. Saw the same thing on the MPO side. The major winner didn't shoot so well. I can imagine that's a tough transition, but we just always come to expect so much of Kristen Tatar.
Yeah, I mean, and there's feelings of, it just didn't feel like she got it together. She didn't play incredibly well. There's the insane pressure, I can only imagine, of being on every sign and billboard for this, on the banners, and scattered throughout this entire city, and known as essentially the queen of Estonia when it comes to disc golf. The 2-time world champ, all of our accolades, and then to show up and then have, this insane fan base. There's clearly a number of other Estonians there, thoroughly enjoying, a number of other Estonian golfers. You just named a handful of them in Katie Tate and Kaidi Asalu, to name a few. So there's other Estonian disc golfers there that she's competing against at the same time. And It's tough. It's tough to question the game or any kind of challenges physically, because we saw her win in Norway 2 weeks earlier. You see her pull off the win, playing 3 out of 4 incredible rounds a week earlier in Tampere / Nokia. So it doesn't seem like, it was a physical thing, or you're saying, oh, she's tired or anything like that, or her ribs are still, like, she played really good golf, essentially 6 out of her prior 7 rounds.
I think it's just mental.
Now she's coming here with all the additional pressures of playing, additional, obligations and or media responsibilities, additional news and things of that nature. And just really played subpar golf to her standards. So there's all the feels, and then there's just the raw facts of seeing 954, 955, and 964 for her 3 rated rounds as she comes in with her 1,000 rating. It's just not the golf that we've all come to truly expect. As much pressure as that is, the golf we come to expect from Kristen. So, kind of wild. I mean, there's been some comments made about cool bets and what you could bet on or not. I'd love to see how many people bet on her to not win, or B, to take top 3, but to have one of her worst finishes in years, at this stage and at this level is just truly crazy.
Cool,
and that's all
cash,
meant ultimately as a compliment.
Yeah.
Like, to see her not perform the way that we know she's capable of is truly a shock, and hence it's news. But right there, ready to play some great golf. You saw, like you said, Missy Gannon, Evelina Salonen. And I gotta, think Heidi Laine certainly feeling some frustrations, because she busted out a 10 under opening round.
Yeah.
And then the next round came back with, instead, 60. She shot 8 strokes worse, and then 63, and then shot, so to speak, 7 strokes worse during the third round than she did in the first round, and only shooting the 62. So a 2 under, right? Is that what she did?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a 2 under. And a 1 under. Yeah. So what did she shoot? Only a 9 first? Whatever. She shot.
Yeah. It was a 9, a 1, and a 2.
Thank you. Okay, I was thinking she opened with a 10. She opened with a 9. So to shoot a 9 and then come back with a 1 and a 2.
She shot a 9 with a double bogey first hole.
Exactly. I remember talking to her about it afterwards, and then how she just destroyed the back 9, essentially from 8 through 17. She picked up like 9 or 10 birdies in that span, and clearly felt like she had things dialed in. And then just to finish rounds 2 and 3 with a 1 under and a 2 under, you got to feel like she kind of let that one slip right through her fingers. And then to only finish 1 off of a potential, the tie, to finish at 12 under, that's got to feel a little frustrating. And I know she made a post about, her game feeling good and this and that, and there'll be another one. But that was one that was definitely within her grasp, as she would, that would have been her biggest win to date. So, I mean, it's just a matter of time before she picks one up as well.
Oh, yeah, most certainly. She's such a solid thrower of the disc in general. And this course really did feel like it could go either way depending on a few holes. There was some OB, there were some tunnel shots. There was, we saw mostly on the MPO side, because that's when I woke up. I did catch some of the FPO highlights, but you would see some of the MPO players just barely catch a tree wrong and end up out of bounds. Now, if you're on like Rick was first round, this is a very scoreable course.
100%.
But there's also danger if you're just off a little bit. It's and I think that's kind of what happened to Haiti. She just she couldn't get it going. And Missy, first round, again, she went from a 1 to a 6, shot 5 strokes better, and then just kind of another 6 for her final round. So amazing, honestly. Just in general, I enjoyed this particular course. I thought it was very fun to watch. I wouldn't necessarily rank it as a great course in the grand scheme of some of the awesome courses we've seen, but it was really fun to watch. And I think it looked like a fun course to play.
Yeah, I Of course, once especially after as much as I talked it up last week, prior to even really seeing all of the course, talked up the event. Everything I said there holds true in terms of the professionalism and everything that they did. And then just keeping in your back pocket or in mind that Seppo Payu, who had done the course design, keeping it within the confines of the property, of essentially the gated in property that's out there, an incredibly tough task to create a course to challenge the world's best.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where, if you look at that course and you say, well, maybe it played a little bit easier, a little bit soft in spots, or it wasn't as long or as daunting or as challenging. Yeah, that might be the case. Even though the FPO course, as I'm seeing right there, comes in at 8,300 feet, that's right on par, so to speak, with, I don't know exactly down to the foot how that ranks against all the other courses on tour, but it's in the neighborhood. 8,000, 8,500, 9,000 feet, whatever. That's all certainly within the neighborhood of a typical FPO course. If you scroll, Johnny, what's the MPO distance overall? That's something.
The MPO distance
came in at 8,800 feet. Yep. Now that's definitely on the shorter side overall. So, yeah.
Just
hats off though to Seppo, as I know, as many of you could probably see, exactly what he had to work with. Is it the best course on tour? No, I don't think anyone was claiming that or will claim that. Did it play in terms of the way that it flowed and that it viewed for the spectators? That was probably one of the number one pieces of feedback I heard on the week, is that spectators loved how they could roam around the course and still get good angles of almost the entire course. Yeah. And that's one thing that I think...
And it played incredibly fast.
Oh, yes.
I love it.
That it did. Like 2.5 hours.
Almost unheard of.
Was roughly, obviously there's not a lot of rough that somebody's getting into and taking, extra time to get out of, things of that nature. So it's pretty cut and dry in that sense. And then just the fact that it was so scoreable is why we saw, like we said, 2.5 hour rounds, which, nothing for nothing, can certainly, like a lot of other sports, can also play into the overall appeal.
Yeah, that's why
you're not out there like slugging around for 4 hours, whether it's rainy or unseasonably warm. You're not out there for this incredibly long time, kind of fighting your way through, trying to keep your attention. You can bop around to various spots and jump around, but also very easily. But also, if you did watch from start to finish with one card, 2.5 hours is a pretty manageable, time.
Yeah, and Edwin Stats says the MPO distance per par stroke is 155. I'm assuming he means feet, which is in the middle of the pack, 13th out of 24 courses. So, as far as what the average par played for the distance, right in the middle. And I can't say enough how I love the variety of courses we have on tour. Just in general, like this, to me, this course almost felt like a European USDGC. Just not a lot of elevation. They used what they had on the land pretty uniquely. But you just go back 2 weeks to Tampere, totally different course.
Yeah.
And just the variety we have, not just in Europe. I think a lot of people really love the European swing because of some of the courses they played. I try to look at it as a much larger picture from everything from, and I've said this before, I know Emporia gets crapped on sometimes. I love it because it's so unique, because it's wide open, and it's a lot of accuracy with wind, which we don't see a ton of. There isn't a lot of shot shaping, so to speak. I also like the Memorial for that reason at the very beginning of the year. It was a lot of just hyzer bombs. Waco, a different style of course. OTB, different. Like, I love the variety we have, and I think this kind of fits right into it. This was a very nice park style, we'll call it a European USDGC, and it just seemed to fit into our tour, which I, again, really enjoyed.
Yeah. I was thinking that about that just yesterday, how people talk about the number one rated course in the world, like Krokel, and how What we also saw, like you just said, at the Monster specifically at Tampere, not so much the Beast.
Yeah, not the Beast. Well, that's a Nokia, right?
That's a Nokia. And exactly. So there's a lot of people that say, well, we want these types of courses in the US. And sure, I'd like a lot of things. The land and the overall, what is naturally offered over there in a lot of these spaces where they then develop some of these beautiful courses, like you're given, not given, that's not the right word. The opportunity presents itself so much easier with an incredible piece of land to start with. And that's what a lot of these courses do. And so that's why when we see people say, oh, there's the courses that we play now, we don't love, we don't have as many of those opportunities.
And honestly, the United States doesn't have a lot of that style of environment. You almost have to go up to Canada to get some of that.
You go into a place like, obviously that's beloved. You go into Vermont. Sure.
Yeah.
How many opportunities do we have to go into Vermont to create world championship caliber courses that are going to check all the other boxes that we need? Oh yeah, that are also easily accessible and practical for players and spectators to get to for us to be there. That's why we're at one piece of property at the end of the year in the perfectly right time. Take properties like Smugs and then just think of an entire country filled with those types of properties. Yeah, we'd see a lot more courses like that. We just, as we traverse around the country, as you're saying, we don't have as many of those easy to develop raw pieces of land to start with. Until we get disc golfers and companies and people that are willing to invest millions of dollars to buy plots of land that give you those, kind of that raw starting spot.
Eagles Crossing. But even that, the land itself doesn't look like that. Eagles Crossing is a lot of
manufactured stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say man-made obstacles.
Let me rephrase this all. Places like Milo McIver,
almost everything you're talking about
are commonplace in Finland.
Almost every one of these places that you're mentioning are all northern United States. You've got Vermont, you've got Milo. It's just the nature of the environment. Like, you go down into flatland Kansas and you can't do this. I don't care how wooded it is. You're not seeing this. Literally what it sounds like disc golfers want is really Northern European style or Northern North America. Like, that's just what and again, that's great. These are awesome courses. I love the variety.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Look at, again, the most hilly event in Florida. Not Mount, but Olympus.
Yeah.
Like,
if we want to be in Florida, that's what we have to work with.
Yeah.
I guess is the point. And
exactly.
we have to be somewhere south during certain times of the year if we want disc golf to happen. There's a reason we started in Arizona. There's a reason we've started in Las Vegas, or early season is in Texas. And no, Texas isn't going to give us the topography that we're getting out of Milo McIver in the Pacific Northwest.
If we're lucky, we can get to places somewhere in like Colorado or things like that, like in some of the mountainous areas. Then you might be able to go a little further south into the United States. Maybe you could find something like that in West Virginia. Those type. But again, you're talking two mountain ranges. If that's the type of terrain you want.
My overarching point is, yes, I would love if every course or more of our courses mimicked a Milo type atmosphere. And yes, there's plenty of that found in Finland, in Norway, in Sweden. We don't have, we have certain pockets where those are available to us here, and we try to take advantage of those as much as we can. And until disc golfers can buy or own or operate Milo type properties, I don't see a ton of disc golf going there any more than we already are. That's kind of the long-winded way to say, like, Yes, I agree. You love the courses that we saw, especially over the last couple of weeks. And there's tons of others. You look at the Swedish Open, you look at those pieces of property, and then everyone's like, well, that's what we should be playing in the U.S. It's not as easy. It's not as easy to do. As much as I would be all about it, it's not as easy to pull off. That's what I'm trying to say.
All right, let's talk about MPO over at the European Disc Golf Festival. Round 1, we saw Ricky Wysocki just go insane and shoot a 16 under par. It kind of scared me, honestly, watching that, not knowing at first what the rating was going to be, thinking like, this course is easy. Like, that's honestly what I thought, because it wasn't just him, but the other guys in his card were shooting pretty well at the time. I thought, oh, wow, Ricky's going to shoot like an 1100 rated round. It was 1119. That's the third greatest, so to speak, rated round in disc golf history, behind Paul at the Memorial and Paul at Maple Hill.
Yeah, and I know if you do a certain search, there's a couple others that are also up there, and then I don't know if that's per SSA or if those are any kind of odd anomalies or anything of that nature. I've heard all sorts of different stats about it. Nonetheless, it's rated over 1100.
It showed Ricky at what I think Ricky is just best at. Just when he gets, arguably when he's on, he's quite possibly the best disc golfer in the world. When he's just dialed in like that, when his putting and his driving, and he didn't have to scramble, thankfully, but he's one of the best scramblers in the world too. He just was unconscious, which was awesome to watch. It really put him in a position that he could not have to worry the next couple of rounds. He still had to perform, obviously, because at the very end, the winner, him, shot 32 under par. So he more or less double what his first round score was. His second round, he shot a 9, but then we saw some of the other players start to step up. Kyle shoots a 10 under. Paul shoots a 10 under. Aaron Gossett shoots an 11 under. And now you've got, going into the final round, you've got Ricky with I think it was a 5 or 6 stroke lead, maybe. Maybe it was a 6 stroke lead. And Paul then got unconscious. Paul was just on fire as well. I think I saw 2 mistakes out of Paul that entire round while I was watching it. Unfortunately, one of them was on hole 18. I'm sure he will tell you he had more mistakes than that, but because there are spots where he did not take a birdie.
Yeah.
But it came down to the final hole. He made it exciting. Ricky was able to I know Ricky came into that round after warm-ups, said he felt a little injured, and, hint, hint, we might not see Ricky at Ledgestone, is what I'm hearing. But he thinks he did something to his rib or his back, possibly. So we're going to kind of keep an eye on that. But Ricky was able to kind of cruise in, so to speak, with a 7 under, while Paul and Una Heinonen shot 12 under pars. And Paul had an opportunity, like I said, on hole 18 to tie it up, and he missed a 30-footer. Just not what we're used to seeing from Paul. Like, if there was one guy that I would want to see with a 30 to 40-foot clutch putt, it's probably Paul. And he just didn't deliver this time.
Yeah, he really needed that to at least
possibly push it down.
Yeah, exactly. Force Ricky to have to make his. Obviously, Ricky has stepped up in plenty of scenarios and been equally as clutch. But I think as all disc golf fans, just fans of the sport, wanted to see him make that for the sake of, and then you can. Even if you're the biggest Ricky fan in the world, you still would love to see Paul make it, because then you're saying, okay, my guy Ricky is going to still be clutch, and that's fine. But I think as just an overall fan of the sport, there's a lot of people that also wanted to see that go in, separating yourself, whether you're a Paul or Ricky fan, just a fan of disc golf.
Yeah, because Rick only had about a 25-footer. Yeah. Paul was at about 30 feet. When Paul... I think he dunked it off the top.
He was off the top band.
Yeah, he dunked it off the top.
Which you got to give him credit. He gave a chance to, as opposed to coming up short.
Don't come up short. That's what everyone says. It let Ricky lay it up in order to tap in for the par and the win, which was really fun to see. It was as a lot of people said, it was a throwback to 2019, where we got to see these two guys go head to head, and they pushed each other. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, and even I think maybe more exciting is the fact that it was only a week removed from them both being in the hunt and having that conversation with the start of the 4th round at the major, at the European Open too. Now, obviously, it ultimately came down to Gannon and Rick, but the fact was Paul and Rick were part of that conversation going into the final round of the major. So we're again and then pulled it off. So yeah, exciting times if you enjoy that old school. Now we're calling it old school. It's been 10 or 12 years of it, but that bigger rivalry, one of the biggest we've seen in modern day disc golf. It certainly has been revived in these last couple of weekends, I guess is what we could say. Not so much in Norway. That was largely Rick, running away with things. But here,
but we know this is
last
the
2 weekends.
We've said it for years now. This is when Paul Macbeth gets hot. You've got European Open to Worlds. It's like the guy flips a switch, and suddenly it's like, okay, yep, I'm going to come out and I'm going to compete. I'm going to kick some butt, and there might be an event or two that I don't care about, but really, this is my time to shine. This is where I make all the money. This is what I do. And it's good to see that Paul's there right now, that Paul's shooting these 1080 rounds, because those are the things that are going to keep him really rolling. And if Rick doesn't play this weekend,
which it looks all but official because I'm on his PDGA page and it does not longer have him on listed. Listed for Ledgestone.
So skip ace people, you've got a chance to pull Rick out of your lineup. Do not call me on Thursday morning and tell me that you didn't notice Rick was out. Please pull him out of your lineup. It's really unfortunate because we know Rick has demolished Eureka in the past.
Yeah.
So it really opens the door. I mean, not that the door was closed by any means with having Rick there, but we can all hope that Rick is not too hurt, that whatever it is will heal up in the next couple weeks. Let him kind of get ready for that World's push that he can make. But it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, and I guess now that I recheck messages, I did message Rick. I heard it earlier in the day, as most of you did. We were actually on one of the same flights yesterday. There's a whole nother longer story to that. But right before the podcast, I confirmed, was trying to confirm with him that if he had withdrawn, if the rumors are true, and he said, yes, I did. Thanks for checking. I'm getting my shoulder checked out. Just want to make sure it's nothing serious and get a little break before Worlds. So that's the update. Rick is currently, right now, listed as playing at the LWS Open in Idlewild, which is presented by Dynamic Disc and the Natty. So he's currently listed as still playing in that. That may or may not be a decision that he makes at a later time. He's going to obviously now another week to think about that, and that's LWS being one of his sponsors. I don't know if that'll factor in. Well, clearly, it's going to come down to how his shoulder's feeling overall and if he needs that break or not. And I was just looking also at his stats.
It just sucks for him to miss Ledgestone, which is arguably one of the highest payouts. Not that he's super worried about the money, but
that's what I was just going to say is he's now at $71,890. And you want to talk about a good European swing. Yes, he struggled at the Swedish Open and finished 11th for $914. But then Krokel, he wins that for $8,223. He takes second at European Open for $8,173, so $50 less. And then he wins the festival for $8,059.
So $25,000 swing through
just about 25 grand. And I couldn't sneak him into the lounge yesterday. I tried to get him into the
the United Lounge.
Yeah, the Lufthansa Senator Lounge, because we were both on Lufthansa, and I do have a gold pass to get through, but he wasn't on the same connecting flight, so I couldn't sneak him in for a free meal. So. Well, Rick had to buy his own meal at the restaurant next door. I did bring in an ice cream bar that I snuck out of the lounge.
Did he eat it?
I hope so, because I had to run off to my flight. He had more time to catch his connecting, and I was like, I feel so bad I couldn't get you in, Rick. And here's a free ice cream sandwich that I jacked from the fancy lounge.
Quite literally free for you too.
Yes. So.
All right, let's go through some of the other finishers. Fourth place, Kyle Klein. He was right on pace with Paul and Ricky to start out, but then that final round, only shooting a 6 under, really kind of tanked him. The middle part of the course just kind of did him in. Roland Kur shoots a 10 under, really good showing from the Estonian.
Just 16 years old?
Yeah, he's super young. 16, I believe. Yeah, because I think he just had a birthday that he went from 15 to 16, which is how usually it works.
Wow.
Yeah.
Even in Estonia?
Even in Estonia, they don't skip 15 or 16. They make you do every single year.
Interesting.
Kind of rude. Tied with Roland was Vaino Makala and Aaron Gossage. So they were all at 24 under. Simon Lizotte, 23 under. Raven Newsom, 23 under. And in a tie for... that was a big... you know what? I don't even care. There was a bunch of people in 10th place, one of which was Gannon Burr, who shot a 12 under to keep his top 10 streak alive. I know that was actually kind of a talking point with him, that he wanted to kind of keep that going this year. Because I don't think he's taken under 10th place this year.
I mean, I don't know if that's as impressive. I mean, I think I haven't missed the top 10 yet this year either. So
that's true. You haven't, Terry.
3. Oh, shoot, I have. Damn it.
Oh, I'm sorry. He did miss it. OTB. He took 13th, but so he's got 1 13th and the other top 10. Yeah, you took 12.
Shoot. I do have more wins than Paul, though. So. I mean, we're pretty much on the same level in terms of our competitive scales here. Anyway, and I don't even know if that's true, actually. Yeah, what a weekend. I mean, I know I talked it up. The follow up, I think the main follow up for me is I don't have the numbers yet. I wish I would have asked sometime earlier today. I don't have the numbers of the total people that rolled through, but I know I can clarify. Last week I kept saying that I just left the preliminary Delphi Superstar experience, and I kept saying, I don't know, 500 or 700 or 1,000. There were apparently 2,100 people there that first night. Some of you saw a bunch of the clips. There were 2,100 people checked in during that very first night. That was during the exhibition stuff. I know within just a couple of hours on Friday during the opening round, that was Wednesday, on Friday during the opening round, they came over the PA system and said, we already have 2,500 spectators here. Wow. And that was at some point during like Friday, late morning, early afternoon. I don't know exactly what the numbers were over Saturday and Sunday, but one thing that I do love...
Over 10,000, I bet.
I think it was over 10,000 in total.
Yeah.
One thing that I do love, and the reason why we can talk about some of these numbers, is what I'm wearing right here is the bracelet that every single person that entered the fairgrounds in any way, or festival grounds, in any capacity, whether you were media, which is my green bracelet, whether you were a player, whether you were a vendor or whatever, every single person that entered, and I'm sure they parsed them out.
Usually ankle bracelets you wear.
I'm a big fan of those. And I can't leave. I can't roam around nearly as much. I know.
Roam around.
Well, with this one I could, but every single person gets their bracelet scanned, and then
that's cool.
Obviously, there's that trackable function of knowing how many people were in that day, how many people were in the park, or whatever the case might be. They could actually track as to where you were or whatever, I guess, within the park. To some degree.
I suppose if depending on what you scanned last, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think that would have a GPS chip in it, and it wouldn't be able to communicate. So you would have to. You have to get close to something for an RFID.
I also had to install a camera on me.
Oh, well,
so
yeah.
that helped.
They couldn't just like jack into the one you usually have.
No.
Or
so anyway, so you see a lot of players. Honestly, I don't even know how I'm going to get this off. There's like this little thing that
you might have to cut it.
Yeah, but I kind of don't want to. It's pretty cool. So. My point, though, to this is it's when we talk about some of the other attendance, because it's tough to track, because there's gates or not gates, or there's official ticket mechanisms and whatever, we don't always know. It's largely an estimate of how many people were at somewhere. And here, it's officially known. Like at any of the 2 or 3 main or only entrances into the festival grounds, for you to have any part of it, even if it was just to come in and shop at one of the vendors, like you had to have credentials and or a ticket or whatever it was to be able to get in.
Cool.
And so I love that component, that there is some very legitimate,
stat keeping, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
Or just...
analytics in that capacity. So anyway, thought that was pretty cool. Again, awesome. I would have loved to see even more people in the actual It's so tough because there could be so many people on the course at any given time. Like, just like you would, like, of a few years ago, Kristen was on the 3rd card for rounds 2 and 3. Enormous gallery following her. That was as big or bigger than the lead card. That's obviously just the effect that she has. We've seen that before in some of our MPO followings throughout the years, where maybe the names aren't quite as big on the lead card. A Macbeth or an Eagle or a Simon could be on the 5th card and have this enormous gallery. And the fact is that so many people could be spread out so much over this festival grounds. It was kind of hard to almost gauge just how many people. It didn't feel crowded or packed, but knowing there were a ton of people there was still really cool. So yeah, can't wait. Can't wait for next year. I'll be excited to see what changes do or don't get made in terms of a major that's going to be held there next year. And then you have to be thinking long-term. You know, I don't think they were shy about saying this, that they want to put in a bid for the World Championships. The question is, when is that most when can that most practically happen from their standpoint?
2028 at soonest, I would think.
And from a logistics standpoint of our players, I think 2027 is my unofficial logical guess, because 2025 we see
is already
in
Europe.
Nokia and
that's why I said
Tampere.
2028. That I don't know if the PDGA would go Europe, US, Europe like that. Now they could.
Certainly could.
There's no real reason why they couldn't. It's just a gut instinct I have that they would spread it out a little bit.
Considering we haven't left the continent in 40 years, and then we're not probably going back to back. But we can speculate all we want. Clearly, it's going to come down to who also puts in bids.
Yeah, who's got the better bid?
I mean, if they
need a better course.
They what?
Sony needs a better course.
Adjusted
course.
I think you're going to see a course on the festival grounds and then another course a few minutes away.
Yes, that would be ideal. You have to have a second course.
That would also then be in play. I think that's what we would see as part of a bid, is my very unofficial speculation. So my guess would be, if they want it, my guess would be that they would hopefully continue to ride momentum to see a bid potentially for 2027 as the earliest. And like you said, maybe 2028 or 29, who knows? But we'll see how the momentum continues to ride, and it's going to be pretty crazy. So looking forward to it, needless to say.
Yeah, I'm excited for all that. That's kind of all Europe wrote. I mean, everybody now is on their way over. This week we had a couple random A tiers that we saw some players go to and play. I think there was probably 3 or 4 that some of our, I would say, normally your mid-tier pro, mid-tier touring pro go out and play. The one thing I want to mention, and it happened last week, and I don't know if I've heard it really too many other places. Summertime Open, which is in Pasadena, California. Stevie Rico, our good friend, tournament director. Terry, can you read off the top 3 in MPO? And tell me the ratings while you're at it.
Brian, I don't know if I know how to pronounce Brian's last name, even though...
Vaggy?
I feel bad. I don't know. Anyways, Brian wins it with a 10-10. He comes in with a 10-10 rating. Shoots 15 under
for the tournament.
It's
a one-round event.
It's just a one-round event. Coming in second, shooting 14 under, so one off the pace of the leader, is a 985. Owen Scoggins.
Owen Scoggins takes second place,
beating Chris Shotwell.
Who's a 1,001 rated MPO player. A field of 27 players. Owen comes out and takes second place in an MPO, because I don't believe there was an FPO field, which she would have demolished. Jennifer Varnelli wins that one. She just got a PDG number of 14933, so she's been around. Rating of 853. She shot a +1 for $100. So great. If Owen wins that, she probably wins like $120. Instead, she just decides, I'm gonna play MPO, Mixed Pro Open. and wins $300, which, you know, it's okay for whatever the B tier this is. I believe C tier. I'm sorry, it's a C tier, so it's pretty solid pretty solid for a 1-round C tier. Beating Chris Shotwell, Noah Jackson, a couple 970 rated players, a 980 rated player. It just shows that Own clearly doesn't care as long as she can play.
Yeah.
And clearly she can compete.
She gives 0 Fs.
Yeah.
Where's hole 1 and what's the course record, right? Like she just doesn't
the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Amazing for Own. And I hadn't heard that too many other places, so I wanted to bring that up. That was last weekend at the Summertime
I know it got
Open.
posted somewhere on Facebook, is where I had seen that she was out there doing some work. So
congratulations, Own Scoggins.
And Nate Hecker won the 10th annual Echo Valley Open. That was going to be my next announcement. So thank you, Tim, for a few of those details. This week, 4 rounds, Elite Plus event. It's going to look and feel a little different than Ledgestone over the last 10 years.
Because it's only Eureka.
Because, the MPO competitors are only playing Eureka. And the FPO, are they only playing? They're not only playing Sunset, are they?
FPO are playing Sunset, I think, exclusively.
I feel like I should know this. Ledgestone.
I think they're playing exclusively Sunset.
One thing we can definitely,
because they're not going over to Northwood, and they haven't done Eureka in the last couple of years.
B Pool, which is the FPO players, are playing exclusively Sunset Hills.
You think I can take Ricky's spot at Ledgestone?
Oh, wait. Let me.
Yeah, this is Thursday. Eureka or Sunset Hills. And Sunset Hills.
Yeah. Yes. So FPO is playing exclusively Sunset
awesome
Hills.
If the last one was just like
Bradley Park.
or no. What's the old school park that we used to play?
Bradley there.
No, I'm thinking. I was thinking
ICC.
in Peoria, but
Bradley's right in the heart of Peoria.
Correct.
Are you thinking of McNaughton?
McNaughton, yeah. It just says McNaughton in there, which I think could be. I mean, I haven't played there forever, but it could be a good FPO course.
Yeah. So we're gonna see 4 rounds at Eureka Temp, basically the Eureka course that you've seen for the last decade or so. But you're gonna see not quite a decade, but you're gonna see 4 rounds there on MPO, and you're gonna see 4 rounds at Sunset Hills on FPO. A little backstory, in case you didn't know, is I believe part of the arrangement or agreement in moving the major, the Champions Cup, from the IDGC, which couldn't be held there, obviously due to the beetle infestation, and then the IDGC's course not being ready to go for us to be able to play it this year. Then there was conversation about when and where ultimately it would get moved to. When it was decided on that the Champions Cup would come to the Peoria area and that they would play Northwood, call it a compromise, call it some kind of competitive something or other. I don't know what the exact terminology would be, but essentially a component of it going there is that we would not see the players use Northwood this year for the Ledgestone event, and that's why they're playing all 4 rounds at those 2 respective courses, as opposed to having, Northwood Blue and Sunset or Northwood Black and Eureka. They're exclusively playing the 2 courses that they are, divisional in each division, or the 1 course per division. So that's part of the logic, because somebody's going to naturally say, why aren't they playing Northwood?
I've already seen it. I already saw someone reach out.
And it's fair if you're not, because it's kind of removed and it was a lot of back and forth. And so I can totally understand the question, but that's the backstory.
Are they going to make any changes to the park at all, in like different holes?
At Eureka Temp, I heard
3 or 4 different holes.
I heard that there was going to be a couple of pin placement changes, and that it might be played in the sense of 2 rounds to 1 pin and 2 rounds to another pin on a few holes. Now, I feel bad that I do not know the exact scenario. I guess probably it wouldn't be tough to look at this. I'm just
running through the course in my head, thinking like we've seen pins move over the last 8, 9, 10 years. They could probably
Well, here's your answer.
Pick and choose a few of them.
No holes on the front 9 are different. There's A pins that are played Thursday and Sunday, and there's B pins that will be played on Friday and Saturday. So it'll essentially go A, B, B, A, ABBA. All of the front
Dancing
9
Queen.
looks to be the same. At least the distances add up to being the same. So I'm going to assume there's no changes there. But on the back, where's the difference? Hole 13 is going to be played differently.
Hole 13, that's the one after the water tower hole?
It's the par 5, going across.
Yeah, okay, after the water. Because I always think like water tower is 12, so 13 is the first one.
Okay,
throw over.
Is that the only hole?
No, there's got to be a different one. What's the point? If you're only moving one hole, there ain't no point. Literally.
I'm looking at the caddy book, and my quick math, don't tell me that's the only difference. It literally might be one pin.
If it's one pin, why bother? I'm sorry. Like it sounds stupid unless there's a picnic going on. You can't get them to move on one of the days. Why just change one hole? Make a few changes. I think of like move hole 1 if you could. Move it further left or right if you're looking at thing. Hole 2, move it from way off to the right.
Yeah.
Pull it shorter.
My quick math tells me it's one pin on one hole.
I
thought I heard there were more.
I hope there's more.
According to a caddy guide that I'm currently looking at, that could be out of date. I don't think it is.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing 120-foot difference all happening on one hole.
Yeah.
1,200 feet versus 1,080 feet on hole 13. Still remains a par 5, but a different pin. I would love to see more too. Because like you said, to even have 2 separate listings, all for literally one pin.
All the effort to change one pin. I just think of there's that Eureka Park. You can make holes that are easier. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no, take the one after the baseball diamond hole. You could move that left or right, or cut 100 feet off just for fun. The hole the one before the bridge hole.
Okay,
you could move it.
Hold on,
Derek. Come on.
17. I'm looking more at the map now.
All right.
17 shows an A and a B pin, but coincidentally,
I was going to get.
They might be the exact same distance, which makes sense because
Sure.
You got to throw over the water,
and it's
just a matter of left or right. But it looks like there might be 2 pins there.
Okay, I like that. I like
and
the
9. See, looking at the map, 9.
That's another one I was about to get to, where after the bridge hole is hole 9, moving it to the left and the right. That's fine.
Okay, I think that's maybe those are what I'm seeing. So you're same distance,
but just a few pins,
presumably. But
okay, so three.
So that adds some variety at least.
Adds a little bit. I'd like to see, and I know it's what I would like to see and what's possible. I would like to see 2 or 3 more. Personally,
yeah.
If you're going to go through all the effort to move some things, 2 or 3 more would be really add some spice to it, especially when we're only getting this one course. Now, Nate Heinold runs a phenomenal show out there, so I'm not one to judge or second guess him. It's just a gut instinct I have.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm seeing is at least those as I'm looking at the caddy book at the moment. So. For whatever that's worth is 2 pins. They're both 335 on hole number 17. Hole 13 has the 120-foot difference for the 2 different pins. Yeah, and then hole 9 has the same, that's the bridge hole. That has the same distance, but again, a left and a right pin. So there you go.
Okay.
I don't know if there's anything else we need to worry about. Get your PDGA votes in. There are
if you want to be
3 seats to vote for.
If you want to be a PDGA employee, they're hiring 2 different people, a product manager and a program director for events and TDs.
Okay, so those are listed.
Those are listed as of yesterday. One of them was yesterday. I think this one was a few days ago.
I was going to say, yeah.
Or maybe it was updated yesterday, actually.
Because
it said 1 day ago is when it was updated. So, but they've been out there for like a week or 2.
Okay, so go out and do that as well. And obviously, just like anything within our country, voting goes a long way. You don't think that your vote doesn't matter. Make sure you go out and vote. 3 board seats available. What is there? 7 candidates, 3 board seats available. So go out, educate yourself, take a look at the candidates that are available, and vote with whomever you most align yourself with. And that voting ends on the 31st within the PDGA. If you're a current PDGA member, you should have gotten a ballot in your inbox to your email, assuming you have a valid email with the PDGA listed and you're current.
Which I do. I am.
Okay.
I checked that. Already voted.
Yeah. I
did about a week ago, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Congrats. We could talk about it more in the after show, but real quick, congrats, Dylan Cease. Obviously not only a PDGA / disc golfer, PDGA member, disc golfer, all that good stuff, and the co-owner of Olympus and Cactus Rock and all of that, but a pitcher for the San Diego Padres, picking up a no-hitter. I believe only the second Padre pitcher to have a no-hitter.
Sounds about right.
Which is incredible.
Considering, I mean,
how long they've been around, and yeah, not that I can...
It's not like the Rays who have, a 30-year history. I think Padres have been around for quite a long time.
For a minute. So nonetheless, of course, historic for any no-hitter, and pretty awesome to see Dylan Cease do it as also a disc golfer, and getting some disc golf shout out.
Yeah, on an interview, saying he was the only, he said something, the interviewer said something like, "You're the only amateur disc golfer that has a no-hitter." Yeah. And he actually was like, "Actually, I might be a pro. I think I paid my $50.
Yeah.
It just sounded so small. Like, I think I paid $50 to be a pro.
Well, if he only paid 50, then he's not a pro.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he said the extra 50. I'm not sure what he said, but yeah.
Nonetheless, congrats to him, of course. Pretty cool to see. All right, we are going to call it here for the regular show. We're going to have a really quick break, come right back, give you the after show, which will probably be kind of quick tonight, at least from my perspective. I've got to pack up and leave for Ledgestone. I've been in Milwaukee for, not quite 24 hours.
Your family's already sick of you?
It's time for me to leave. I've had enough. Yeah. Thank you to Jesse Weisz for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. Best of luck on the survey. Hope everybody goes and fills that out for Ultiworld. Even if you don't think they're your favorite podcast, that's okay. Just
even if you had to rank them at only like 2s and rank us at 10s, we understand.
Yeah.
Still take the survey.
Yeah, please do. Thank you again to him for joining us, though, and congrats to our champions. I didn't even hit up Ricky or Missy. Everybody's on this super quick turnaround, coming back from Europe literally less than 24 hours ago, and they have a pretty big event this weekend. So heal up, Ricky, and best of luck, Missy, and congrats to you guys both for your incredible victories. For Johnny V, I'm the Disc Golf Guy. Quick break, and then we'll be back with the after show. We'll see you then. You step inside the SmashBoxx.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV Podcast 517's After Show. So I thought there were more, but quick research tells me it's pretty much Nate Sexton, who stuck around in Europe, and he is playing at the Järva Open over in Sweden this weekend. And I, for whatever reason, maybe just because I stayed with him and saw him early on in my European trip, he's like, yep, Norway, Finland, Estonia, and then staying for Järva. And for some reason, I thought there were a handful or more people doing as much, and that doesn't appear to be the case.
Just him.
He's the only guy in the top, we'll say, 25 rated at that event, and that is from the U.S. So he's sticking around. He won't be at Ledgestone. And then there's Joey Tamale from Minnesota, stays over there. It looks like Eli Swanson, Swanson is over there. Logan Ritter. Okay, so I for whatever reason though thought there were a bunch more that were sticking around and playing over there, but it looks like just a handful of them. So obviously lots of people coming back to the U.S. And it's a short turnaround. Now, in hindsight, we talked about this as I closed out the regular show, the logic and the reasoning to only playing one course. To be fair, it's kind of going to work out in the player's favor to some degree. They're coming, everybody just spent either 1 or 2 or even 3 weeks in Europe.
Yeah.
Most of which just got back less than 24 hours ago, back to the States. The earliest they really could have got back was about 24 hours ago, yesterday. Some of them, flew right into Chicago area and then had a couple hours over to Peoria. Some maybe were going back to like the Des Moines area and then have a few hours to get over to Ledgestone. But the fact is, when they get back, it's going to be probably a legitimate day or so of true rest and recovery. And they're not then practicing 2 courses. 2 courses they may know, but still, nonetheless, they only have to practice Eureka.
I don't think, probably, as much as viewers, we're probably sad not to see Northwood Black. I'm guessing most of the people that made the European trip are not too sad to come back and not have to play Northwood Black. Just honestly, to think like, oh my God, I have to,
That's a good point.
Just Eureka is such a more clearly open course. Easier. There's a little bit less brain power that you need to really focus. You don't have to hold your focus quite as long at Eureka. You can make little mistakes and not be punished
nearly as much as Northwood Black.
Black.
So it might be an unintended, silver lining or unintended blessing in disguise that coming back after this swing, you're not going to come get your head beat in at Northwood Black upon your return when you can you barely know which way is up because you're maybe still jet lagged or still challenged by that, and you had 2 or 3 really challenging weeks over there, and now you come back and again, we're not saying Northwood's like a walk in the park, but it's definitely correct. Thank you. Eureka's not a walk in the park, but it's definitely not the beatdown that Northwood gives out.
Could give you
on the daily. So I guess that's and almost even similarly, look at Sunset Hills. We know that Sunset Hills is very scoreable, is relatively easy to navigate around and to play and to compete at. So yes, it's a 4-round event, and that in itself has its own toll, but it might not feel as brutal as if they were playing over at Northwood or any other courses. So I guess we'll see how it shakes out.
We'll give him a free plug. I saw Nate Sexton made an announcement today about some business venture he is working on, some travel company that he is working with to do disc golf excursions.
Okay.
And I believe it's probably one of these all-inclusive. You pay for 3 to 4 days. You got to go out with a pro, and you go to a course. Follow Nate Sexton on social media, and you can kind of figure it out. It looked interesting. I'm curious as to what the turnout will be for that, and how exactly that's going to pan out in the long run.
Yeah, and I'll say this: I didn't see the official announcement today. However, him and I had a conversation about this, about all the components that could go into one of these kind of intimate, slightly more intimate, smaller group travel opportunities. Obviously,
well, if it's going to be intimate, then I'm there.
Yeah, Paige Pierce, he has done stuff of this nature.
She did
in doing that kind of style, and I think it's a really good idea. And it could provide for a really unique opportunity and probably to see some really cool places. Now, exactly how it's gonna, where they're gonna go, I don't know if any of that was announced, but I know this is an idea that he had mentioned in passing to me even a few months ago. So it's awesome to see, because even at that time, it was a little more of I'm not sure if, this is something we want to try or do or whatever. And the fact that he's moving forward on it, I love it. So
it's great.
Certainly wish him the best of luck with it. And it sounds like it probably would be pretty fun. I can't imagine where you'd go that wouldn't be. Because clearly they're going to pick cool places to go
with top pros,
and experiences. I really like the idea, and it's not too far fetched from something I had pitched to a few pros 6-8 years ago. I'm thinking like there's some cool opportunities that are out there. It's just a matter of getting them organized and making them practical.
Yeah, we've seen
and they're only going to be for certain
cruises
people too. Disc golf cruise, and they're only going to be. I think that's one of the pieces of feedback I had is the price point's going to be interesting, right? As to like you said, what's included, what's not, and then
is this a $3,000 venture, a $5,000 venture,
and then who's going to say, well, I'd love to do it, but I can't afford that. Well, it's truly not meant for everyone.
No.
Like there's certain access to players at certain times that are meant for everyone, and then there's going to be certain things that are going to feel a little bit more unique, and they're going to come with a price point just by the nature of what's being offered. So should be pretty cool. Sophia, who was over experiencing all the action overseas, coming out of Canada, Daneki, she is celebrating a birthday today, and it's popped up on my feed. So
happy birthday
to Sophia. What a good time to be bouncing around the country playing disc golf.
Chris Brown on our board asks, what's the best course to play up in Milwaukee coming up in August? Or just the funnest course, that is. Depends what you like. We've got a handful of courses. I would say if you want the most fun, you're looking at probably Estabrook. I think Estabrook might be the most fun course. It's more of a park course. It's going to be relatively busy. It's right by UWM campus. It's in general, I would say, a little bit easier of a course than something like, depending on where, Dretska Park would be another good option. Depends on where the pins are. If you happen to catch a week where the pins are all long, it's not going to be nearly as much fun. It's going to be a good course and difficult. Otherwise, you could go with just outside of Milwaukee, go to Valley View, which is a pitch and putt, par. God, it's
2.5.
I was going to say it's almost a par 52 for crying out loud. It's an easy par 54. Like everything is reachable. A little bit of woods, a little bit of open. It's just
a little bit difficult to navigate if you don't know where you're going.
Yeah, if you don't know where you're going, it can be a little bit hard to walk around the course. But depending on when you catch it, odds are there's going to be people on the course you're going to be able to follow around. So it's not going to be that bad, more than likely. But those would be the three if you're looking for fun that I would probably think about hitting.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And if you go a little bit south of there, then you're going to want to play like a Gray Fox or a Silver Fox, and those are going to be about 45 minutes south, 35 to 45 minutes south, depending on where you are in Milwaukee. Oak Creek is honestly kind of fun as well.
It's mostly tore up right now. The parking lot apparently is all. I just read this like yesterday. The parking lot's all torn up, and they have a couple holes pulled out right now for some construction.
Don't go to Oak Creek.
So, yeah, it would be very difficult to follow if some holes are missing.
Probably. So, yeah, that's a pretty good starting point. And if you got any more questions once you get here, let us know. Especially if you've already hit those up and gone to play those.
Have you watched any Olympics?
I have. Funny enough, I said it earlier today to my daughter. I have watched 0 minutes and 0 seconds of the Olympics traveling overseas. I don't. There was a TV on for a few minutes in Norway. Outside of that, I saw almost 0 TV screens of any kind in the last 3 weeks, and I'm even kind of behind on on some of the American politics, some of the other stuff going on overall.
Let's get into it right now, Terry.
But no, I have, and I'm not saying this boastfully, but no, I have consumed. I've just not had the mental capacity to consume a single minute of the Olympics.
I haven't watched any either. I've been keeping up with a little bit with like medal counts, and we've got a few swimming medals, and the big news is our gymnasts. The U.S. men's gymnastics team got a bronze, which is like their first medal in like 10 or 15 years or something. And the women with Simone Biles gets another gold. Yeah, she's this new gymnast that
she's trying it out, seeing if she's got a path in this.
She figured she'd give it a shot. She now becomes the most decorated women's gymnast ever.
How many total medals does she have?
I think 7.
Oh,
8,
wow. I was going to
maybe.
guess way more, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, with gymnastics, I think it's a little more difficult. She's obviously, I think she's got like, maybe it's 8, maybe it's 5 gold, 3 silver, and a bronze or something like that.
Okay.
Tim's like, I watched some gymnastics. I watched it on socials. I saw people replaying some of it. I was trying to think. They showed in the stands was like Michael Phelps and Serena Williams. And I was thinking like, wow, I've been lucky enough to be able to see some of the greatest athletes. And I think that most generations can probably say that because athletes are getting better and stronger. But to think like we saw Michael Phelps, who racked up how many medals? 18, 20 medals, something like that. Serena Williams, who one of the best female tennis player to ever live, and was seeing Simone Biles, who was probably the best U.S. women's gymnast. I've seen Michael Jordan. We've been very fortunate to see a lot of phenomenal athletes, and that's what happens when you get old. But it's pretty cool. It was really cool seeing them the camera go from like Serena to Phelps to Simone Biles, like all like within like 5 seconds. So someone was clearly directing very well. And Snoop Dogg, Snoop Dogg and Flava Flav.
It's funny. I've heard more about Snoop and seen more posts about Snoop.
Well, the torch looked like a giant doobie, to be honest. Like he's carrying around this torch with a flame on the end that's literally shaped like,
Well, I just see a lot of posts about either his commentary and just some of his involvement. And then as Tim just said, Flavor Flav.
Huge into water polo.
Yeah, I'm just seeing headlines as I flip through Facebook and try to get caught up. One of the headlines was something about Flavor realized how like under funded essentially like the water polo team was, and then he became their biggest sponsor, something like that. I was like, yeah, I don't know how those two get put together, but huge shout out to Flavor Flav for stepping up. And he said he sponsored water polo. So
I like when they show other athletes at other athletes' events.
Yeah.
Like when you see an NBA player watching badminton or whatever it is.
Sure.
And I enjoy, and they're really getting into it. It kind of really shows the
privilege that they have.
The spirit that you have for the Olympics in general. Like, no doubt that some of these guys that are playing on the basketball team, this might be their second, maybe even third try at the Olympics here if you're LeBron. The allure maybe wears off a little bit. Where you're like, do I really want to go to watch, badminton? Some of these guys is like, yeah, let's go check out badminton, man. Like, this is crazy. I like to see that excitement, regardless of the country. Obviously, we're focused here on the U.S. and the U.S. athletes. I'm sure it happens with other athletes as well. But I think it's just in general, it's a lot of fun. And there's another week plus of the Olympics to go on. They haven't touched track and field. Swimming is still going on. I saw it today. I think it was Katie Ledecky, who in her first, I think it's the 1500 meet, she won by 20 seconds. 23. Like,
I didn't know if that was, again,
it's just
a headline I saw.
It was a heat.
Is that okay?
Yeah, so 1500 obviously that's big, but still 20 seconds is still a pretty big number for a 1500. She's just so good. And again, we're seeing I get to see literally probably one of our best female swimmers of all time, in Katie Ledecky. And I'm not going to fool myself to think that we're not going to see this. I don't know if I'll ever see an athlete get as many swimming medals as Michael Phelps. I don't know if I'll see as many get Katie Ledecky, but in a couple generations, they will have the best athlete of all time, someone who breaks multiple world records and things like that. It's just a lot of fun. And unfortunately, I haven't really been able to catch much of it live, as you know, a lot of it happens when I'm at work during the day. And by the time
priorities, bro.
Well, and by the time you see all the social medias, you know all kind of the main results, you go home and you turn on NBC or whatever, and they're more or less showing you highlights from earlier that day because everything's in Paris, so the timing is off, so you're watching everything later. It's like, I already saw this. So it just feels like I'm
Olympic spoilers.
I know, Olympic spoilers. I'm just
That's
waiting
why
for the
you wait for
post-production.
That's exactly why you should do that. Yeah. This is kind of a funny side note, as one of my challenges was with my phone and dealing with some of that. Yeah. I will just say, and this comes from a very first world.
Is this a travel tip you're going to give us?
No, this is a first world privileged problem. So I recognize that. But I will tell you, even just simply going somewhere for a couple of hours, and this also leans into my overall dependence, which is maybe a bigger problem. Driving and going somewhere with your phone that has no cellular capability elevated my heart rate more than it should have today.
Okay.
Just obviously I can't make or receive any phone calls, which I would all do hands-free. So there's thoughts. You're having your own thoughts when there's just no chance of making a call or receiving one. Like, there's a lot of business and things I wanted to catch up on today, just getting back into the States. So more than normal, I really wanted to make a few calls. I couldn't because I didn't have signal yet. This is all with me trying to get my phone adjusted and fixed. Obviously, thank goodness I didn't need any form of mapping or Google Maps. I don't have a backup atlas in my car, as everyone removed those from their car 20 years ago. And I'm going within a city that I live in, so I'm very familiar with where I'm going. But just knowing, like, oh, is there traffic up there?
Yeah,
I don't know. Is there, should there be a detour that I should be worried about? Oh, is this kind of random offshoot company I'm going to or store or whatever? Do they open at 10 or 11? I don't know. I can't call them, and I can't go to Google with it. Again, this is incredibly first world. These absolutely privileged problem. I understand.
These are 1990s problems.
I know, and that's all I kept thinking is, what in the world did we do 20 years ago? This was like, Johnny and I are very blessed that we were absolutely in the age of both the internet coming to fruition and cellular phones coming, and then smartphones. All, like, those were in our college / early adult years. So I think maybe at the best time ever, they actually entered our lives, timing wise,
probably.
Right? Like when we didn't need them when we were 13, but by the time you got to 22, it was normal and commonplace to have a cell phone. So, but we experienced payphones, we experienced landlines, we experienced fax machines, we experienced downloading Google Maps,
still have to use fax
and
machines.
Printing it, before you could just have it on your phone. So like we bridged that gap in such a beautiful time, in my opinion. But to then
you used to call me and you jokingly called me Johnny Quest
or John Star
because
John Star was a thing.
Because before you had like the actual
Any
smartphones,
smartphone.
It was just be like, oh, I can look it up on MapQuest because I'm in front of a computer and Terry's driving somewhere. Oh, I need to get here. Like, oh yeah, you're gonna want to take this highway and do this, and then you're good to go.
More hours than you guys could even actually imagine were Johnny and I on the phone and me saying, oh, hey, and then he'd say, oh, yeah, there's a subway 3 stops down. Or, hey, you're going to need to take this turn or do this or the course is here or whatever. Yeah. Like, more hours than you guys could conceivably actually imagine. It was 2008's Worlds in Michigan when, like, Google Maps and live GPS / mapping on your phone, on your smartphone. Because I remember thinking like, it knows like, oh, we're on this exit or, oh, we need to get off on, like, I remember thinking that. And that was
amazing.
Just, incomprehensible at the time. And so, yeah, driving around, and I don't know if you want to challenge yourself to this. And it's one thing if you're like, oh, my phone, I just can't access my phone because it's in the trunk and it's in my backpack. And if I really need it, I could just get out and get it, pull over to the side of the road. Like, go somewhere for a half a day or a day, just literally with your phone not with you. And it's, again, this is maybe just an overarching dependency problem that I also have. Not because I'm so stupid I can't drive from one side of Milwaukee to another.
No, it's just
like the feeling that you can't, though. It was pretty crazy. And to think, obviously my solution for today, and even getting off planes and such was, okay, I can't communicate with someone again until I get to the next spot that has Wi-Fi, which is now more places than ever, of course. But even just that alone, and not even being able to send a simple text or have a simple even Facebook Messenger message to somebody that might be really useful for where I'm going or what I'm trying to do, even if it's a quick update. Hey, I'm running late. I'll be there in 10 minutes or in 30 minutes.
So did you end up getting a new phone, or did you just use, I know you had an older phone lying around.
Yeah, so I'm still with an old phone, which I was actually praised by a few players. Like, so your phone doesn't work. It broke in Norway. It got wet because I was filming a bunch of FPO action on that final morning. Yep. And then I said, yeah, but at the last minute I packed along an old phone. And how many people's eyes lit up like, damn, that's smart. I'm like, yeah. Usually I bring an extra phone, an old phone, because it may be linked to using it with my drone. And so you don't have to necessarily swap out my phone and get it all hooked up, and I could use it for the drone or something like that. But I've learned, especially, or with the idea of when you go international, rather than using your existing phone, and maybe you just keep it off unless you're going to get on Wi-Fi and you're actually don't want to use like the international data or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's cheaper to go with like an eSIM or have some other kind of service on a phone, and you're not jacking with your SIMs.
Yeah, there's a lot of new phones now literally have dual SIM in them, but still, yeah.
Exactly. And so depending on where you're at and how comfortable you are with doing some of those things, it might be easier just to use a separate device because that's all you're using it for anyway. Mm-hmm. So yeah, long story short, I'm rocking an old one. We're trying to get the other one still cleared up. So it was only a matter of hours today. Like when I was outside of the country, it wasn't as big of a deal. Well, actually I had data and some cellular there because I was using an eSIM for Norway or for Estonia or for wherever. But to get back into the States and then to not just be able to make a phone call, it rocked my world a little bit today. It felt weird.
Well,
So try it, people. See how that feels.
Cut yourself off from the world for just a little while. Go touch some grass, as the kids say.
Tim says, did you guys have a paper directory of the disc golf course? Absolutely. Every year, for many years, the PDGA would release, whether it was spiral bound or not, different years had slightly different bindings as it continued to grow, but an actual PDGA course directory. And within that, it gave turn-by-turn directions. And basically, it did everything you just did, but instead was in a big, thick, like notebook, spiral-bound notebook format. So it was all done by state. You'd go to Wisconsin, then it was alphabetical by city. And you'd say, oh, I'm going to be in such and such city. And then it would list, obviously, if there was the course name, it'd list the directions. And then it would, most of the iterations that I have anyways, it would list it would break down the holes by distance, and it would say sub 300 feet, holes 300 to 400 feet, and then over 400 feet. And it would have it broken down in that way. And it might be a little bit of a description. It'd tell you potentially what type of baskets were there and what type of tees were there. And then hopefully, if it was really good, it would say, go to this park. Here's the, turn-by-turn directions. Hole 1 is behind the baseball diamonds or whatever. So everything essentially, disc golf course review and or UDisc or whatever uses today, but it was all in a notebook, ink on paper format. Those were the days. And then you'd get off the course, especially if it was a new one from out of state, you'd get off the course and then you'd give it we would give it a little rating, whether it was stars or little baskets. Oh, that gets 3.5 out of 5 baskets or 3.5 stars out of 5. And then we'd write some notes, and those were your earliest disc golf course review ways to do it. So, and I still have a number of those.
I think I have one of them somewhere in one of these bins.
Yeah, I have a number of years. And then what you could do is almost every year when they would release them, it was easiest just to order it with your PDGA membership, because they sent you something every year, some kind of membership ID tag, just like they still do largely. But they would send you those things, and you would order it at that point. That was the easiest time to do it. So yes, the good old days of pre Google Maps and pre MapQuest. Those were what you're using, and you're tracking them in and with your atlas to get to your next course or whatever the case might be. I don't know where I put the notes. I should actually look it up. But there was a PDGA. So we had a meeting on. We had SmashBoxx on Wednesday. Essentially, there was a PDGA Europe meeting of sorts that took place on Thursday, the day before the European Disc Golf Festival. And it was great. There were representatives from 5, 6, 8 different countries, along with the 3 head guys at PDGA Europe. And it was like I don't want to say a mini summit, but it was kind of like a mini summit. And there was a lot of representation, not only from these other countries, but then also PDGA Europe. I don't want to say giving their mission and the platform, but basically saying, hey, here's some of the things that are going on. Here's some of our initiatives. And yes, we're here for any kind of questions and or support that you need. Because PDGA Europe, I think, currently consists of, what's the commercial say, 39 or so countries, whatever it consists of. So it was really great to see. And one thing that I love about it is that meeting was filmed and will ultimately get released. So obviously, when you weren't there, it's something that'll be released on the PDGA Europe YouTube page. And I'm just trying to think of where I stashed a couple of the notes that were from it that I just wanted to share with people. I think I put them here. Maybe. Here's a few of the notes. Some related to the tournament specifically, and some related to PDGA Europe. One thing that was noted was that and I apologize if I screwed any of these up, and people could correct them. But one note that I took from the planners, some of the planners of the European Disc Golf Festival, is that they had received roughly 200,000 euros in funding from the Estonian government for the event.
Wow.
Somebody else said that there was more than a $500,000 budget, which seems too low then if they got 200,000 alone from the Estonian government. But 200,000 euros, roughly €1 a dollar, give or take a little bit. So
you got to figure stadium rental, like that's probably thrown in. There's
well, funny enough.
Okay.
I'll get to that. 100,000 euros to rent the festival grounds for the week.
Okay.
It was $100,000. Let me add on to this. Everything had to be cleaned up and gone per their contract by noon on Monday.
Yeah, I think I saw a post from someone on Sunday or something, Sunday night, or something along those lines, like, hey, we're all done cleaning up, and they showed everything, I think.
By Monday at noon, it had to look as if they weren't even there. I think another concert's rolling in or something.
Sure.
But Monday at noon, per their contract, everything had to be, and with that, I think I wrote, did I make the note? Something like, did they say 4,000 gates? No, or 4,000 kilometers of gate was there, or stanchions, like or fencing?
Yeah.
Something like that was put up, which obviously all had to come down.
No, wait, it's 4,000 kilometers.
400.
Maybe.
I don't know. It was for some reason I didn't list that, but I remember hearing something about it. 350 outdoor banners around the city were posted up with it was essentially Kristen and Simon on the Estonian Disc Golf Festival. They were talking about advertising and getting the word out there to the rest of the city. Over 350 outdoor banners were placed around the city.
That's really
when it was
cool.
all said and done. This might be, I wish I would have led with this hours ago. Taylor Swift is not playing at the Song Festival grounds next year.
Okay.
Because they said they essentially beat the application to get the festival grounds by 2 days.
Wow.
Prior to Taylor Swift.
So Taylor Swift was going to come through at that point, but
can't use the Song Festival grounds and go there because this event that will be the major next year beat her application by 2 days.
Oh, wow. If you're that city,
you say F your disc golf because we're bringing in the largest person on the planet.
Yeah, I get it. Fair is fair. You beat me to it. I just think as a city, you're like, where am I going to make the most money? A bunch of 10,000 disc golfers coming in, or
120,000 Swifties,
Swift fans coming in from probably
literally all around the world,
and probably for sure Europe. Like, amazing, unbelievable.
Yeah, I made that note that that no Swift next year beat the application by 2 days.
Oh well, I mean, we're bigger than Swifties.
Almost unbelievable. What other notes did I have? Now, conversely, UC apparently did want to use this when getting the World Tour going in 2016.
Okay.
And we saw the World Tour at a couple different places.
Yeah.
He did want to use there. However, the note was made that the Queen paid more than UC in 2016, so that's why the World Tour wasn't held there. So the Queen did supersede the Disc Golf World Tour and UC in 2016. Fast forward a decade, and it looks like we beat out the Swifties somehow.
What Queen? Like the Queen of England at the time?
I don't know. I wrote the Queen. I don't know if that's...
that to me feels like the Queen of England.
I don't think they meant Kristen at the time.
No, I don't think so. And I don't think Estonia has a queen, so they've got a president.
I'm not smart enough to know U.S. politics, let alone Estonian politics. But I did read that Estonia is debt-free, and they have a 20% income tax for everyone of every income, no matter what your income is.
So it's
apparently a flat tax of 20% that might get raised to 22%, I think is what I was just recently reading. But the country itself is debt-free. So that's
must be nice.
Yeah, that's they're doing okay there. Yeah, those were some of the notes that I had from the organizers. I hope those were all public, meant to be. Oh, they're going to be.
They are now.
They are now. Sorry, I was reading 20. I don't remember what those other notes were for. So anyway, pretty cool. Some of the details. Also, Kristen's manager. I want to say Matthias. And I apologize if that's it's not Silver. There's like 4 Silvers that all do great things there, and I'm not thinking Silver Let or Silver Letma, who runs the event. What is this? Anyway, he did a kind of a case study of breaking down how he's Kristen's manager and some of the things they did to go through her rebranding, and they show the video.
Yeah, we all saw the video a month or two ago.
Mm-hmm. But he broke down some more of the stuff talking about being Kristen's manager and the role that he plays, and I thought that was really interesting. I think he said that every single one of Kristen's current sponsors, with the exception of Latitude, are sponsors that and relationships that he's helped foster.
Well, that's a good manager.
Yeah, which is also very cool to hear.
Considering the amount of stuff she has over there.
Yeah, we've seen her with, obviously with Porsche being one of the big ones. Also, she's done some stuff with Nike. Or Nike Estonia and some other. She's works with supplements. She has a supplement.
Cool Bets, or was it a different betting platform?
It was Cool Bets. I don't know if she personally is with Cool Bets. the tournament was.
Correct. No, she
What,
actually has
is
some
she
sort.
as well? Okay.
She has some sort of gambling site. It might be
Okay.
Cool Bets. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, that I'm uncertain of off the top of my head. I know that Cool Bets was certainly part of her, of the festival. As we look down on her website, Latitude, main sponsor, Nordic gaming company known.
That's it right there. The Nordic gaming company, PAF.
PAF, it looks like. Okay. Yeah, they I don't know as much. Nike, Porsche. And then Ecosh, which is a supplement company that I know she personally uses. And today she made a post about going to the I'm going to say Hedon Spa and Hotel. I know made a post on Instagram about going there, and it looks like they're a partner. And then New Way, which is the branding creative company that came up with her
new logo and just the whole
logo and everything else. Air Baltic, 24/7 Fitness, Team Estonia, Rask is a law firm that she's partnered with. Oh, it looks like City of Parnu sponsors
the
her.
city's going to sponsor. Hey.
Okay, yeah, very cool. So anyway, it was really great. And just listening to him. Because clearly we don't have a lot of them. There obviously are a few managers out there, and
and forgive me if I'm wrong, it doesn't feel like our managers for a lot of our U.S. players are able to pull in some of these outside sponsors. We're seeing some inside sponsors, people like Zuka. God, it's late. I'm blanking out, but we'll just say inside sponsors.
Sure.
We're not seeing a ton of outside sponsors like she has.
Yeah, I counted 12 on the website, and then Latitude 64 is being really the only one that's exclusively disc golf. The other 12 on the 11 out of the 12 on her website are all outside of disc golf. No, technically all 12 are. I was going to say even Team Estonia. That's a greater collection of top tier athletes within Estonia that aren't necessarily disc golf. There's
most of them are probably at the Olympics now.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, they're those types. So anyway,
cool.
Yeah, really, really cool to see and hear, and I'm looking forward to that being available on YouTube. But then also just the idea of having more of those meetings and making those available, and then getting some insights from Austria. I think there were some people from Slovenia there or Slovakia. Yeah. Austria, China, Latvia, I think had someone there. It was obviously a pretty diverse group. It was pretty cool. So
sounds pretty fun.
Yeah. And what a great place to do it, in that you're having all these countries come to this festival or coming to these majors, and they're there for a week or two. So to be able to kind of plan something like that, the timing for it is perfect to have these actual face-to-face conversations.
Well, Kristen has 12 or 13 sponsors.
Yep.
We have 128 right now. Yeah, 128 sponsors for us from patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. You too can be a sponsor, just like you can sponsor us.
You're basically just
You're
like
our
Porsche.
version of Porsche.
Yes.
So if you go to patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV, you will be our version of Porsche, even though neither of us will probably ever buy a Porsche. So, but you could be, you know what? If I see you, I'll ride on your shoulders. You can be my Porsche.
Wow.
Yeah,
good call.
That
what
is
an offer.
That is quite an offer. I do give a lot of people, but mostly just Patreon supporters. Terry, we're going to do 2 giveaways tonight, and probably 2 giveaways tomorrow or next week, maybe 2 giveaways after that. I think we have 3 to catch up on, or 5.
And if we have to give out extra, we'll give out extra.
We'll figure it all out. But I don't want to sit here and just do giveaway after giveaway tonight. So we'll just do 2 tonight, and then we'll make sure to do 2 next week, and then 2 the week after that. We'll just kind of stack them up a little bit. But we do have 128 people eligible for our giveaway, Terry. What number should we generate?
I think we should generate the number 2.
All right. So 2 numbers.
Generate 2 numbers.
2 numbers, yeah. I mean, if it is the number 2,
then so be it.
By all means. All right, our first number that we generate is 112. So it's got a 2 in it.
Yep.
Our second number, and the one that we're going to give away.
I'm feeling 22. Ooh,
17. She's only 17.
17.
Winger. 17. So I'm scrolling up. I had it sorted by first name. 17 is bruh.
Love it.
Literally bruh. Hey, bruh. Bruh is a very wonderful sponsor of ours. Thank you very much, bruh. Which
Bruh.
his real name is Philip. But on the list, he's just bruh.
We'll take it.
Bruh. We'll take it. All right, Terry, we've got one more of these. Let me highlight this so I don't lose bruh. Oops, I missed the highlight button. There we go. All right, so now let's go back to our Patreon.com or our random.org, and we need one more, Terry. One more.
3 different countries. So 3.
So 3 more.
Just visited.
All right, the first one is 39. The second one is 60. And the third and final number
3.
76. 76.
That would have been my next guess.
76 is Matt Schenk. Matt Schenk, congratulations.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate your support as well.
Highlight you as well, so I can
down to the Sunshine State is where we'll be sending out some stuff.
Yeah. And for everyone that's wondering, all the discs are signed by me and they're in Terry's possession. So
Finally.
Well, you've been gone for 3 weeks as well. I missed the week or two, but when you were here, and then you left for 3 weeks, and now you've got them. So the Patreon discs are in Terry's possession. He will hopefully get those signed and sent out tomorrow. I'm just kidding. he's
I was gonna do that tomorrow.
Yeah, just do that tomorrow. No, he'll get those out probably another week or two. But we're good to go. Your Patreon supporter discs will be in the mail, and that's for anyone that was a Patreon supporter last year. At the $3 level, you'll get that. We've got it all figured out. Obviously, we'll do that again come at the end of this year for everyone that was a Patreon supporter this year. So thank you to all of our supporters. Honestly, you keep the lights on. You keep doing what we're doing for as little as, well, it's more or less, less than a cup of coffee a week. Today,
Coffee.
I was in Subway, which I go to Subway probably once every 3 weeks to a month for lunch. Normally, I try to do leftovers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm there, and this woman's in front of me. She gets her order. She walks away. I'm next to check out. The woman comes back in, and she's asking. She's like, "Can I get a cup for some ice? I just need some ice." And I don't know if the woman behind the counter understood what she was saying. And she's like, "Well, what size cup do you want? Small, medium, or large?" And the woman's like, I just like a water cup with ice, like one of those clear little cups of just. She's like, "We don't have that. Do you want a small, medium, or large?" And the woman is like, "Well," she's like, I guess a large." And the woman's like, "Okay, then it's going to be like $2. And the woman's like, I just want some ice. I don't want to drink. I just really, and the woman's like, and that's at that point where I'm just like, just put it on mine. I'll give this woman a cup. I don't care. I'm sitting here waiting to do my thing as these two are having a conversation. I have my phone out ready to do my Apple Pay. And I'm just like, I'll purchase the cup for her. I don't care. I saw she was literally, I looked out and her car is there running outside the door. Like she had just run in to get cups, and she's had like 2 or 3 kids in there, and I'm like, she probably just wants ice, damn it. And so I was just like, hey, just put the cup on my thing, I'm whatever. And she's like, oh, thank you. And all I kept thinking is like, you couldn't just give her a cup for ice? Like I understand, like you didn't have anything, and that's the I didn't say anything, but at one point the woman's like, yeah, we don't have water in our container. We only sell bottles of water. Otherwise you have to get soda. And so I was like, all right, I guess, but like, all right, whatever. I just give her the cup.
That's when you should just went over there and put it in your hand and be like,
here's the ice.
Do you want me to walk this out to the car with you? And then just start throwing it at the kids.
Yeah.
Assuming they needed it. Yeah. It was, as you said, it was definitely hot here today, too.
Oh, it's supposed to be warm. And it's supposed to be even warmer in Peoria.
Great. Can't wait.
Yeah. It's supposed to be like upper 80s, lower 90s.
Sweet.
Probably similar humidity, I would guess.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun.
Maybe a chance of some rain on Thursday and Friday. Just like here, fun. I think we're supposed to see some, maybe on Wednesday and Thursday. That might be the case here. But anyway, have fun, Terry. Enjoy that.
I was going to say, I'm going to do something because I was able to get some laundry done in Estonia. I essentially got my suitcase and I'm not even going to unpack it. I'm just going to throw it back in my car tomorrow morning when I head down to Peoria and just take my whole suitcase with me because it's all good to go. And it's got everything, hopefully, that I need, including some raincoats. So we'll see how that goes. But that's going to be the plan. I won't even bother to unpack it.
Are you going to bring along an extra phone?
I don't know if I have another one. I got an old one somewhere.
Stick one of the kids' phones.
Also, in quick news, we saw that today the Disc Golf Pro Tour announced that Barbasol and the Disc Golf Pro Tour extend their partnership through 2025. So we're going to see Barbasol.
Put it on your face.
Put it on your face. They are going to be presenting the Green Mountain, or part of the Green Mountain Championship, which is the playoffs, along with the MVP Open by OTB, and then our final event, the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship. So the playoffs and the Pro Tour Championship, again, presented by Barbasol. So pretty cool. You know, I know we were just talking about Kristen, we're talking about non-endemic sponsors within disc golf. So to see Barbasol for the third year jump on tells us that they're clearly seeing value in advertising within our ecosystem or within our demographic. So pretty cool to see. Other than Gillette, right? Could you name another shaving cream that's not Barbasol or Gillette?
I bet you there's like Axe shaving cream.
Oh, there's probably 100 other ones, but could you name one for sure?
For sure, no. I'm going to go with Axe, but just because I think they make everything, but...
And I don't even think they... I don't know.
I
Harry's maybe, because I see them occasionally at the store. But like you said,
yeah, Axe does have a shaving
there
gel.
You go, but
that's just a guess because I know they make personal products.
Pretty cool, because when you think shaving cream, especially when you think of certain smells, Barbasol is one that is on the forefront of everyone's minds. Of course, also the ties to disc dyeing for
Edge.
those.
I've heard of that one.
Which is still Gillette, right?
Gillette, it might
Technically?
It might still be Gillette.
So, nonetheless, pretty cool. So, congrats to all those that work hard on it. I know Sean Jack and the rest of the Pro Tour, along with Collegiate Sports Management Group, is who I think we partner with to help get that sponsorship. So, cool to see them on board again. Worth mentioning. All right. Dutch. Little Dutch Napier out there on the board. Love you too, buddy.
Dutch came to our state and walked away a winner.
Of course he did.
Yeah, he won
a little silver cup action.
Little silver cup action. Dutch
doesn't surprise me.
Dutch takes that one down.
Tim, I am not currently scheduled to be at Idlewild. I don't think I'll be there in any capacity. I am, in fact, hoping. First of all, I wasn't put on the schedule to be there in any capacity. I am hoping to instead, though, be at the conclusion of the AM Worlds over in Grand Rapids, Michigan, although that's still up in the air. But as of right now, I am not scheduled to work any part of the Idlewild Open, and I don't think that's going to change, but who knows? Anything could happen. All right, we're going to close it out. Thank you guys so much for watching tonight, so much for this being a short one. That's what we say all the time, but here we are. So we appreciate you guys. Thanks for all the patience and kindness in these last few weeks. I know things have been a little crazy running around, bouncing back and forth, and we've had some guests and not guests and hosts and co-hosts and everything else. Johnny is keeping holding the fort down, and looking forward to a great weekend at the Ledgestone Open. And we'll probably be back here next week, likely with your winner or winners from that event. For Johnny V, I'm the Disc Golf Guy. That's 517's After Show. Thanks again to our Smashies. We love you and appreciate you. We'll see you next week when you step inside the Smash Box.